Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking movies, TV, comics, and more. Join in the conversation on our social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome back for another edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, he is the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
Folks, we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more, so definitely join in the conversation on social media. You can find all our accounts at OchoDuroParlayHour.com. Join in on Facebook. Join in on Twitter. Join in on Instagram. Join in on Podchaser. Drop a 5-star review while you're there. And always remember to use the hashtag ODPH. Kicking off this edition of the show, we have to recap New York Comic Con 2020.
Mm-hmm.
This was an event that definitely lived up to the hype. I know that last week we did a full preview, as we always do, because it is our favorite time of the year here at the ODPH. It's con season. And obviously, this was going to be a different New York Comic Con than we have ever attended.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with everything going on in the world, there was not a live crowd con this year. It was
Correct.
going to be all virtual.
Yes.
So ReedPop decided to roll out with the Metaverse.
Mm-hmm.
And they delivered. They teamed up with YouTube, had every panel streaming flawlessly, and we got a lot of content. This was such a strong performance by everybody involved. We can't say thank you enough to everybody that was behind this, because New York Comic Con also teamed up with the MCM Comic Con to form the Metaverse. There was so much happening. We are going to be recapping the big events of the weekend. So let us kick off. Thursday was strong, probably the strongest day of the weekend.
Probably.
And I will say this was dominated by Amazon Prime Video.
Mm-hmm.
We will get into that. But the first panel of the day, though, started off strong. And it was DC's Endless Winter.
Yeah, that one, because admittedly, didn't know much about it. I know there's been a lot of rumors and a lot of speculation, but coming in, so I was very excited to hear about this, and I'm even more excited coming out of it.
Yeah, this looked absolutely amazing. What's happening. It reminded me, though, a little bit about the Avengers BC team that they had.
Yeah, a little bit.
It kind of ties into that, but it's its own vibe. It's its own feeling to it. Andy Landing and Ron Mars were the writers for this event, and they were on the panel talking, and they did show some art from the Frost King.
Yep,
and
who looks fucking nuts.
Oh, it looks amazing.
Holy shit.
And the different costumes, which can easily be summed up as Justice League Vikings.
Pretty much.
And everything was that feel of like the Norse mythology to them. Swamp Thing looked absolutely badass.
Yeah.
And they said it's going to be 9 issues. Bookend chapters are going to be super big, tying in everybody from Superman, the Teen Titans, Justice League Dark, Black Adam are going to be the central characters.
Yep.
And they're also tying it into the first incarnation of the Justice League, which, like I say, that's where the comparison drew for Avengers BC, because it's going to be Wonder Woman's mother, Hippolyta.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I said that right.
I believe so.
Yeah, so she is going to be the center character of like the one end, and then they're going to fast forward into time to where we are in the present DCU.
Yep.
So it is a little crazy about that. But Pad, what did you have to think about this?
I thought it was nuts. I thought it was awesome. You know, it was cool to see some of the covers, and then even what the Endless Winter dude looked like. The one key takeaway I took from it, though, was I forget what the name of it is, but they mentioned something in it that in Norse mythology precedes a certain term we're very familiar with, both in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and in an upcoming God of War sequel, Ragnarok.
Yeah,
I heard that and my ears went, oh shit. Like, you don't just throw that name out casually, so this could be something huge, and it could set up something even huger down the road if they wanted to go there.
Yeah, because that's what I was bringing up about, like, you know, what did you think about it? Because I was waiting for you to bring up that word, because when they dropped Ragnarok, it was going, okay, we already have this event going on with DC's Dark Knight's Death Metal.
Yep.
We now have another epic major event at DC with Endless Winter. Is it too much too soon, or do you think they're going to be standalone on their own that fans are going to vibe off this?
I mean, this is, if I remember right, this is going to start in the end of December, beginning of January, or something like that. So maybe at that point, the death metal stuff will be wrapped up, or it'll take a pause. Because I feel like if you do both of them at the same time, that's just going to be way too much craziness for my brain. Especially since death metal takes at least 2 readings to understand what the hell it is I just read.
I don't know, death metal, it's so good, but
you
need that moment of breather for it, because if you don't have that, it's going to absolutely mess your head up. But what they're doing over there is just absolutely crazy.
Oh, yeah. No, it's just one of those things. So if they take time off with Death Metal to do this, because like they said, it's only a 9-issue run, bookends on each end, it'll be relatively quick. It'll be enough time for them to get some more crazy stuff planned out with Death Metal if they want to keep that going. So I hope that they take pause with Death Metal to let this have its own time to breathe.
Yeah, so it's going to be obviously very interesting when this all comes off. And for DC coming off Fandom, we weren't really sure what to expect of what we're going to have from them at New York Comic Con. Definitely strong panels, though, throughout the weekend. I have to give that.
Yeah.
And they obviously started off Thursday strong. The next one up for me was the Star Trek panel.
Okay.
Now, I am not the biggest Trekkie. I've said this here on the show before. I'm not hating on anybody that is. I'm just more Star Wars than Trek. But this had a lot of information going on. Obviously, the animated show Lower Decks has been rave reviews on CBS All Access. And they did announce one Mr. Riker is coming back next season.
Oh.
So that was kind of a little fun
Interesting.
chat. Yeah, a little fun chat with the cast. And
Sure.
Discovery is coming back with their Season 3 preview. And the little footage we saw looked absolutely epic. Big space battle, and there's a lot of moving parts going on with that. The new season is kicking off October 15th.
Okay.
But that wasn't the biggest news of the weekend for Star Trek.
Go on.
It was announced Kate Mulgrew is returning to the Star Trek universe. There is a new show coming out on Nickelodeon.
Odd place.
Called Star Trek Prodigy.
Okay.
So this is going to be launched in 2021. And obviously when you're tying in Kate Mulgrew to that series and you know her legacy with Star Trek, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So this is going to be something to keep an eye on. And where they're going to go from this is going to be absolutely wild. So where Star Trek is going to be moving forward in 2021, they have a lot of big things happening. CBS All Access has been the home for it.
Soon to be titled Paramount Plus.
Right. So with that transition, Star Trek is having a bright future. And like I said, Discovery looked incredible. Like, I know I haven't watched it enough, but I got to get back into it, and I definitely got to give it more of a shot. Because
and the new show, Prodigy, Nickelodeon, a very interesting choice.
Yeah, it was. I mean, from the little bit I could do following up on it, it's basically following teenagers who find an abandoned starship. And somehow Captain Kate Janeway, who is Mulgrew's character, is involved with it. So I don't know that much about it. I've been trying to track down like really credible sources for it.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to find anything as of yet. But if you're into Star Trek, definitely something to look forward to.
That's just going to be so, like, from what I remember as a kid and teenager watching Nickelodeon, which Lord knows if it's the same these days. That's going to be such a weird departure from their normal programming that maybe it'll work. We'll see.
Yeah, it's definitely something different, and I think it's a great avenue to try. So why not?
Yeah.
And like I say, the expansion of the Star Trek universe through the streaming service has definitely paid off thus far.
Yeah.
It's got a little more high profile to it, so why not take your chance and go somewhere with it? And Nickelodeon's a great place, too, if you really want to get a next generation
it's a good place to start.
Fans to get into it, no pun intended. So that being said, the next panel I had on my day was the first ones from Marvel, and these were just really fun panels, back-to-back. Women of Marvel.
Okay.
So they had a group of writers that are involved with different characters in the MCU. You heard news about Captain Marvel. You heard news about the new Black Widow book, which looked absolutely crazy. You heard about the graphic novel for Miles Morales, Shockwaves, which is coming out June 2021. You had X Factor and Spider-Woman 100, because you know how they do the whole legacy numbering now in Marvel. So this is something wild that it took me a second to like realize. Like, okay, what is going to be happening here? Because for me, it always throws me off when Marvel does this, because they're notorious now for doing these restarts and new volumes. But I do like it that they're keeping the legacy going. And they did tease a little bit about a former Miss Marvel writer coming back. So they didn't give any speculations. This was a really, really fun panel, and I definitely have to stress, go to findthemetaverse.com if it's still up, and definitely go check it out. This was definitely an entertaining panel, and you got just a lot of information, and this was a perfect vibe to kick off to Marvel.
Yeah.
Marvel always does an amazing job at NYCC, no matter what. And every time you go to a panel by them, it doesn't have to be about the MCU, which I think a lot of people forget. It's always a great energy. It's always a great vibe, and everybody enjoys being there. And there's just something about the room that really fills you up. And this is another example, because I have not been following a few of these books. I'm now more inclined to go check them out because of this panel. And that's the best thing you can have from a panel coming out of this. Next up, though, was Ten of Swords.
Okay.
So this was the X-Men panel. And obviously, we've been to the X-Men panel at NYCC.
Mm-hmm.
It is a personal favorite of Pad's.
Yes.
And this one definitely delivered on some information. And with this new crossover, there was a couple takeaways from this.
Okay.
One, if I did my math right, it's about 22 issues.
Yo.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, stretching over a couple months.
Wow.
Now, I could be wrong about my math, but I was trying to track it down. I know I was talking with, obviously Trade Driven. I was talking with East Coast Avengers, Wednesday Poll. Like, everybody was kind of like group chatting about this to figure out, okay, this seems a lot. And I think that's the number Rich and I came to a conclusion with. For going back to the expanded crossovers, it's a lot to ask from fans.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I understand it's Jonathan Hickman. I know there's epic story building from issue 1 till whenever he ends the story. Everything all comes together. But this just seemed like a lot.
I'm having flashbacks of the 90s. Or whenever, late 80s, early 90s, when there was just a lot of books.
Yeah, and now we're going back to it. I know they're just rolling out a few new books, Hellions, X Factor. They did tease about the Children of the Atom book that's coming out as well.
Right.
So it is sensing like they're going back to the oversaturation of the X-Men line, which I'm very fearful of.
Yeah, which isn't a good thing. I mean, it makes more sense if it's kind of like limited run, couple of months, and then it's over and done with. And you can come back to it at some point if you have the urge to, or you have the right story for it. But if they're all ongoing series that like have no clear end, because that's like one of the good things I like what Marvel's done with the Star Wars books is, especially the Star Wars main line, it has a beginning and an end. It's set between two of the films, beginning, end, and we tie up all the loose ends we need to. But with these, it's like, okay, you're kind of going on a long time, and there's. It turns into one of those situations that for me is one of my issues with comics is I try to get into a comic book or a specific line and I go reading through the latest issue and somebody references something and I go, wait, what the hell are they talking about? And they go, and then there's a little asterisk in the little box that says, for more on this, see issue, blah, 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 number whatever. And it's like the 9th one I've seen in the issue. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to stop reading this because I don't want to have to read 9 other comic issues just to get what's going on.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. It's just a lot of times you can just sum up a story and the filler issues are exactly that. And in this day and age, I hate having filler issues. If it makes sense to the story, sure. But 19, 22 issues, whatever the case is, it's a lot.
Because if you're only doing one a month, that's, 2 years. And even if you're doing 2 a month, that's a year.
Yeah, it's something wild with that. So I know it's going to dominate when it all gets up and rolling. And like, obviously, they've already started planting the seeds and going forward with it. So it's a lot to intake. And like I said, once it seems like it's just going to dominate once every book is coming out at once. Because that's the same vibe it had when it was in the Executioner song.
Right.
And it was just something, like, for me, that's one of my favorite X-Men stories of all time. But it's a lot to still ask from your fans to go pick up every single issue. But nevertheless, I don't want to take away from the panel, because the panel was very fun about this. And I definitely have to give credit to everybody down there. And we did get the background for the story. And with that being said, it was... Apocalypse is based, and it's basically when Krakoa splits into 2 and his lost family. And then you have to be very familiar with Excalibur for this to really appreciate the story. Because, like, for me, I used to read the Alan Davis run way back when. And they're tying in characters like Saturnine and Otherworld. And you have to really know a lot about it.
Yeah.
And when they're tying in everything involved with it and about, like, how Saturnine is now stopping the invasion of Krakoa from the Lost Family and makes a tournament for the fate of Krakoa. And now with the whole resurrection deal, which, like, if you haven't been reading the X-Men, I will say Google it. It's a lot easier to explain it that way than me doing it. But the resurrection deal is not the same in Outer World as it is in Krakoa. So it's kind of just a lot of moving parts happening that you really got to be laser focused on. But it was something that I was a little more interested about the event, that now I get the whole swords deal. Yeah. Because you're having a duel to the death. So I get this. And they kind of tease, like I said, about big ramifications for the team. And they could not emphasize team enough. So when this all gets said and done, it'll be a whole new stat quote for the X-Men. And it'll be interesting to see where it plays out. But like I said, it's a lot going on. It's a lot happening.
Yeah.
It's not to say that it's not something to be excited about, but it is something just when you get rolling with it, it's a lot of issues and a lot to really take in and go from there. So, like I say, if you're in the X-Men universe right now, you're going to definitely love it. And if you're not, jump on board. It's been some great books. Like I said, I love Marauders and I'm a big X-Force fan. After that, it's kind of pick and choose. I know they're coming out with the second wave of them now, and to each their own. But it's something worthwhile to check out. And the X-Men have been very interesting, very polarizing, but very interesting since the reboot from Jonathan Hickman. So, like I say, Marvel really has strong panels on this day. And the next one up, though, was another strong one, the Doctor Who panel.
Ooh.
So, obviously, the cast was talking a little bit about the recap of the past season and teasing where we're going. Also talking about the revolution of the Daleks.
Right.
And I mean, just everything that's Doctor Who. And it was always crazy watching in the chat.
Yeah.
Try getting a word in.
Good goddamn luck.
Yeah, it wasn't happening.
No.
So that was the first of a couple Doctor Who panels. And let me tell you this. When we get into more of the Doctor Who announcements, definitely impressed with what is coming out.
Okay.
Definitely impressed. Next up, though, is going back to the X-Men Universe pad, and this is something up your alley.
Yes.
The animated series panel.
Yeah, this was really cool. So this was for a book that that was the one thing I didn't understand was kind of like it was about a book that came out, it was kind of like the making of X-Men the animated series, and it was a lot of behind the scenes stuff, renditions and pre-production stuff and stuff that never got used for the show. But it was hard to tell whether it was a book that was coming out or had already come out, because the guy who narrated it, I forget his name, talked about how he saw the book and it wasn't in color and it really should have been in color, and talked to somebody and got it. So that was a little confusing, but the panel itself was really cool because it was all folks who worked on the show, from executive producing down to writing, down to, a little bit of drawing, and just some of the behind the scenes stuff of production, just because it started in 1992, I want to say, and just for that age, there was no computers, so this was everything in that show was hand drawn and then had to be layered on top of itself. So I know the one example they gave was, I want to say it was Rogue, Jubilee, and then Wolverine in the jet, the Blackbird, so it was, they had to draw them individually sitting in the chairs, and they had to have, so below that they had to have the interior of the Blackbird drawn. They had to have, and then layered on top of that was them sitting in it, and then anything else they had going on, layered on top of it. So it, just some of the work that went into the show for its time was absolutely bonkers. When they went to storyboard episodes, they talked about having, 300 storyboards done for this show, and then scripts would be 40 pages long, and then, they got going, and then they talked about doing the Dark Phoenix saga, and that was pitched to them. That wasn't, they didn't go to Fox or Marvel or whoever was in charge and say, hey, we want to do the Phoenix saga. No, that they were like, hey, we want you to do it, and it's going to be, 5 episodes. And this was after they ordered, I believe it was 39 episodes, they said. And so that for them was a godsend. You'd think it'd be tough. One of the most seminal stories of all time, going to be hard to, but that was actually a comfort for them, because they said, listen, that was 5 episodes. We all of a sudden only had to write 34 scripts, not 39, because 5 of them were already taken care of. We just had to adapt them. Yeah. So that was cool. And then just the way they had to do things back then with, their animation team was overseas in Korea, I believe they said. So you're having to send stuff and look at stuff from overseas, and just how nuts stuff went. And even down to coloring, where they showed a picture of Wolverine and how he looked, and then these numbers with lines pointing to specific things. And I was like, what the hell is this? Because it was 1992 and they didn't have a computer with every color known to man at their fingertips, they had to specifically say which one it was, and they didn't even have some colors available. Ew. So that always made it tough, and just the amount of work that went into this was nothing like I'd ever seen before or could even fathom.
Yeah, this was definitely something absolutely wild to see, and always being a huge fan of the show too. Just to get those little behind the scenes moments, it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So obviously something definitely worthwhile for all those X-Men animated series fans.
Unfortunately, no announcement for season 6.
No, I was surprised at that too.
Hoping.
I fingers crossed on that one too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely got enough buzz, so we have to wait and see. But next up on the list, though, for Thursday was, I will say, the Kings of New York Comic Con.
Okay.
Amazon Prime Video.
Okay.
Now, they came out with a star-studded day of Thursday panels. They kicked off with Truth Seekers. Now, this is the absolutely wild show from Nick Frost, and this is where they're the supernatural investigators.
Right.
And this is just absolutely crazy. Malcolm McDowell was on this panel.
Oh, boy.
So it was definitely a fun time. I'm very, very excited to see this. If you're a fan of Hot Fuzz, it's going to be something up your alley. Obviously, Nick Frost delivers every time.
Yeah.
And when this drops on Amazon Prime, you definitely need to go check it out. October 30th is the drop date. So obviously the Friday before Halloween. So what better time?
That's a good time.
Yeah, but this one was a definitely fun panel to watch. I'm more excited about the show. Like, I was already sold from the previous footage I've seen, but now I'm in. I'm so in about this. 8 episodes too, so it's a quick panel or a quick show to watch. So definitely have to watch on that. Next up, though, for Amazon Prime Video was Utopia. Now, I will say this: if you have not started Utopia, you might want to wait about watching this panel.
Okay.
They go full into details about everything going on. So a couple things I have not caught up with that I get. But it was also a panel that if you're not really familiar on what's going on with this, and the whole story is absolutely ingenious, but it's messed up as all hell. Because it's a conspiracy theory that's tied into a graphic novel comic that apparently comes to life.
Oh, boy.
And it's basically how to prevent the end of the world. And these readers of this comic are now thrusted into the roles of being the heroes. Like, it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But I love it thus far. It's an acquired taste, though. Like, I got to say this. I haven't finished it yet, but I have liked everything I've seen.
That's good.
John Cusack is creepy as all hell in this.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. And Rainn Wilson, you will not look at him as Dwight.
Oh, that's good.
He will definitely be his own character about this, which I know throws a lot of people off about this. But this panel was very interesting. And like I said, they did give away some spoilers. So if you weren't caught up, you had some stuff a little ruined. Like for me, I'm still watching it because I want to see how this plays out. Because they do have a way of doing dramatic twists and turns very easily. So that being said, I mean, it's definitely something worth checking out. And obviously, since the boys are over, I need something to watch. Speaking of the boys, I will say this had to be one of my favorite panels of the weekend.
Oh, that's good.
Because we have to keep in consideration, too, the boys had not did their season finale yet. So this was just the cast answering fan questions, and everybody was having a blast there.
Right.
And you can definitely tell this cast really likes each other. They were kidding around. They had a celebrity superfan jump in. Any guesses?
No.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Whoa.
Who had a filter making him have superpowers.
Oh, God.
And he kept just repeating over and over, I want to join the 7. Put me in the 7.
That's a terrifying thought.
Oh, it was hysterical. Like, it was crazy, and everybody was marking out.
Oh, of course.
And the executive producer, they kept screaming at him, like, put him in, put him in, put him in. It was definitely a fun time.
I'm sure they can work it out.
Yeah, Anthony Starr, who plays Homelander, was not there during this panel.
Sure.
I forget where they said he was. I think he's filming another project.
Oh, okay.
But he did answer a fan question, and he did it like his way, and then he did it a little bit like Homelander. Which it's freaking amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I love how they kept saying, instead of the season finale is dropping, they kept going, all episodes of The Boys will be out on October, just trolling everybody.
If you think they don't read the internet, folks, they just proved you're wrong.
Well, I'm gonna dive into a little bit more in one shots.
Okay,
but for everybody that was bashing them because they didn't go,
they should put out a marketing campaign with that.
Yeah,
like because I know they were advertising the hell out of it right before it was going to come out, and then right after it had come out. But now they kind of toned down a little bit just because it's out and it's out. But just to troll people even further.
Oh, yeah.
They should absolutely put out an ad campaign on like YouTube and then television saying all episodes of The Boys are now available.
Oh, no, they have been.
Oh, shit, they have.
No, see, this is one thing that you haven't understood. To kind of fill everybody in. When it was announced that this show was going to go episodic, and you got the first 3 episodes early, and then it went 1, 1, 1, 1 after.
Wow.
people got mad.
Yeah.
And were like review bombing it before it even came out. This season has been freaking fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Starr, who plays Homelander, should be an Emmy consideration. I'm just saying it right now.
He might be.
But I love it that the cast and the executive producer, Eric Kripke, kept going, finally, October 9th, all the episodes of The Boys are going to be on Amazon Prime.
That's incredible.
They did it on Facebook. They did it on Twitter. They did it on YouTube. It was fantastic.
That's awesome.
I was marking out laughing. Like, you could definitely tell that they were excited to really drive that point home for everybody that was sitting there.
Just twist the knife in a little further.
Yeah, because it was unjustly attacked. For what? Because we can't get everything like Netflix and you can't binge watch everything. We've talked about this numerous times. You don't need it, folks. As long as the shows hold up, deal with it.
So I understand some people can do that. I can't do that anymore, so I'm grateful for these services that put stuff out weekly.
Yeah, so
it means I don't have to be a zombie for 3 days while I'm trying to binge watch a show so I don't get spoiled.
Yeah, so obviously The Boys played it super, super fun. I love this panel. Like, this would be one of my favorite things to watch. And Amazon Prime didn't stop there, though. The next panel up was for the animated Invincible show.
Okay.
Now, Pat, are you familiar with Invincible?
I heard about it a little bit just from what you've told me.
Yeah, it's a very, very cool series by Robert Kirkman, who everybody knows from The Walking Dead.
Yep.
And it's a story about, I'll just read right from Find the Metaverse. 17-year-old Mark Grayson, who's just like every other guy his age, except his father is the most powerful superhero on the planet, Omni-Man. Now, this is a story somewhat similar to Spider-Man in certain degrees and somewhat The Boys and others. It's super violent as all hell. You are going to have no punches pulled. The comic is incredible. I recommend reading it if you haven't.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't read every issue, but what I've read, I've really enjoyed. And they did kind of tease some more stuff coming out. The trailer was enough to get fans interested. I know I was talking with Brian from Cheers to Comics. He wasn't a real big fan of the animation. It is a lot more like X-Men Generations.
Oh, okay.
That style, like that's the easiest comparison I can make with it. I didn't mind it, though. Like, I thought it looked really cool, and I'm excited to see what they're doing. And this is also another little piece of information. If you read the comic, the character Battle Beast is going to be voiced by one Michael Dorn. So stay tuned for more info on that.
It almost sounds like a true life, like what would happen if Superman and his son were real. Kind
of, yeah. I mean, it's very adult oriented, so it's not for kids.
Yeah.
But
because I get the feeling if Superman and his son, Jonathan, I believe is his name, were real, I don't think he'd be quite the Boy Scout that he's portrayed in the comics.
No,
people would be going through some walls if they pissed him off.
You'd see a lot more like Homelander from The Boys, to a certain degree. And like I say, this show is not for kids per se, but it's a very violent comic. I will say that.
Right.
Like, they don't pull any punches. So I'm expecting to see a lot of that translate onto the animated screen when it comes out. But the last one for Amazon Prime for the day, and like I said, they kept hitting just home run after home run after home run. The Expanse was giving their first look at Season 5. It was very interesting. I was definitely intrigued by what I saw. It's going to be the same setup as The Boys. So on December 16th, you're going to get the first 3 episodes of Season 5, and then they're going episodic after that. So Seasons 1 through 4 are available right now, so if everybody wants to get caught up on it, it's been very good from what I've seen. Like I say, it's on my list of the shows I need to catch up on.
Right.
But I just haven't had time. But I'm definitely starting to get rewatching it because I want to get caught up by the time this drops. And everybody I know that has seen this, whether it's, I believe, Pint of Comics and a few other friends, have always said this is a phenomenal show to check out. So I'm pretty sure it was Pint because I know we were talking about it down at Con last year. If not, I apologize if it wasn't. But this was definitely a strong way to start out. I know that there was an IDW Lock and Key panel. Now, have you seen Lock and Key yet on Netflix?
Listen, I just got through season 1 of Umbrella Academy. Give me time.
No, fair enough. I lose track of, like, there's so much dropping at once that, we got to just make sure we're on the same page about. Lock and Key has been very good on Netflix. I like it. I know it gets a little teeny bopper at times, but it's TV, so I kind of suspend some reality with it. But they did talk to the creative team about the comic and definitely teased about a few things going on with that. So Joe Hill, who is the author, Gabriel Rodriguez, who is the artist, we're kind of giving a little behind the scenes and mentioned about a Sandman universe crossover. Now, DC and Sandman really rarely cross over to anything, let alone each other. So the fact that IDW is getting a little access with this, and they did show some promotional art, it looked very cool. Obviously, they're talking about the next chapter of the comic, which is going to be like the history of a key, and season. The only thing they said is season 2 is going to be under production. So they started off Thursday very strong. I mean, what did you say overall for Thursday was jumping?
Obviously, all the stuff Amazon had going because Lord have mercy, they came hard and heavy.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think they won con. But they had some tough competition as we jump now to Friday, and Friday. Ready Player 2 kicked off the day, so if you're a fan of the movie, Pat, are you a fan of Ready Player 1?
I've seen the movie. It wasn't bad. Not the hugest fan of it, but it was enjoyable.
Yeah, Ernest Cline, who's the author, was talking with Will Wheaton. It was a one-on-one and giving a little idea about what to expect for Ready Player 2. The book is supposed to be dropping on November 24th.
Guess I'll give it 3 years. It'll be a movie.
Yeah, so had a little stuff to be enticed with, shall we say. But next up was a panel that I know is near and dear to your heart because you did preview it on the show.
Yes.
Lucas Publishing, Stories from a Galaxy Far, Far Away.
Yeah, no, this is always super exciting because this is the panel that if you are a fan of the Star Wars books or comics, and not just the adult books, but the young adult stuff and the kids stuff, it's definitely the one to tune into because they like to give previews and little hints and tidbits at what they're working on, or just casually drop that they submitted a new manuscript for a new book, like Timothy Zahn did a couple years ago when he announced he was doing another Thrawn book, which was completely out of left field.
Yeah. So this one had a lot of information for all the genres. Like it wasn't just the major book,
which is usually how it works. In the past, it's kind of been they introduce who everybody is and what some of the stuff they worked on, and then they kind of go down the panel, and there's no real organization to it. It's just kind of like everybody sits how they sit, and it's just they talk about what they're doing.
Yeah, it was very interesting. Like I said, they were talking about some more stories coming out for Boba Fett and the Art of the Mandalorian and Galaxy Edge,
which should be amazing. If you haven't seen any of the art of making of books for anything they put out, they are fantastic.
Yeah, no, it looked dope as hell. Like it was the first time I've seen this, and they're also talking about the Galactic Storybooks, and that's like a kids line.
Yep.
And they're talking about the IDW publishing High Republic, and mentioned about Shadow of Vader's Castle and more hype for the Marvel line.
Which my one issue is Shadow of Vader's Castle. Calling the people who live on Mustafarians just sounds weird.
Yeah,
I get it. It makes sense, but in my head, I'm like, that just sounds weird.
And then they kind of capped it off talking about the Star Wars archive book. So as they said, it's a huge one, and there'll be a lot of information for that because I believe they've done one for 4 through 6, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so, yeah.
So definitely had a lot of information for that. And obviously, if you're a Star Wars fan, that was a must-watch for you. And also, I believe Friday was another panel for Star Wars?
Yeah, so that was one about, they gave some more details about the upcoming, I don't even know what the hell you call this, event, I guess you could say, Star Wars The High Republic. This, of course, is the event they're doing with Marvel Comics, IDW Comics, Disney book publishing, so that's the kids stuff, and then Del Rey Publishing, which is the adult stuff and the young adult stuff, where they had Susanna Paulo from Polygon hosted it, and she talked to writers Charles Soule, who I am very much a fan of, Justina Ireland, Kevin Scott, who I am also a huge fan of, Claudia Gray, who has written some amazing stuff, and then Daniel Jose Older, and then also there was Lucasfilm Publishing creative director Michael Siglin. Unfortunately, Jennifer Heddle could not be there, so Michael got hit with all of the questions that were pertaining to Lucasfilm side of things. Basically, and this was going to be an interesting panel because we've heard about it's going to be set 300 years before the Skywalker saga, so the only person around is going to be Yoda. We didn't really know a lot about it, but they did give some details. Basically, the start of it is there's an event that happens that's kind of a catalyst and going to change the galaxy as they know it, where you have a cargo ship called the Legacy Run. It collides with something in hyperspace and, basically makes this huge mess, and passenger cars and cargo portions are scattered onto different planets, and the Jedi Order gets called in to help fix the situation. They kind of made it sound like it's an everybody has to come type of situation, not just, oh yeah, hey, we're dispatching 2 Jedi and you guys go take care of it. No, it sounds like everybody's getting involved. So that's going to be absolutely nuts. Yoda will appear at one point. They're calling the event, by the way, The Great Disaster. Yoda will appear at one point, and he'll be kind of in an element you're familiar with seeing him from the films, and he'll be training Padawans. But he will be seen in action, and he does get some fighting action. So that'll be awesome to read. Claudia Gray talked a little bit about her book Into the Dark, and she said her characters are actually caught up in the disaster itself. Kevin Scott talked a little bit about his Marvel comic, and specifically one character titled Keeve Trennis, who is posted to a massive space station titled Starlight Beacon, and she has literally just become a Jedi Knight. Like, she figured she'd get put on some outpost or some like watch station or something, like, hey, you're new, let's get your feet wet before we put you in something huge. No, we're putting you on a huge space station where this happens. So that should be absolutely nuts. And then Charles Soule talked about this, what he's working on, and specifically one of the characters is called Avar Kriss, Kriss, who perceives the Force as music and calls it the Song of the Force. One thing I kind of took away from this panel is that they're kind of changing the way you might look at the Force, and that it's not just all, hey, everybody has the Force and everybody can learn these powers if, they just got to learn hard enough. And I like what they're doing, that everybody's different about it. Some people are better at other things. Some people are stronger at some stuff. Some people aren't as strong. That's one thing that Claudia Gray brought up, that one of the characters in her books, she kind of described it as a spider web, where there are some strands on a spider web that are stronger than others. Some aren't quite as strong. One of the characters in her book is, got to work a little harder, that it doesn't come as easy to them, so there was some more good stuff in this. There was a Wookiee Jedi was described being in this, and that he has a two-handed lightsaber built to match his strength and size. And apparently this lightsaber is freaking huge. So, and then they kind of capped off that there have been references to the High Republic in recent work that no one has picked up on. And I believe they said one that came out about 5 months ago or so. So there have been stuff that is in going to be in the High Republic that nobody's picked up on. So, eagle-eyed detectives should definitely go looking for that. And then they did make some announcements for Phase 2, I guess as they're calling it. Kevin Scott will be writing an adult novel. Justina Ireland is going to be writing a young adult novel. And then Daniel Jose Older is working on a middle grade novel. No titles or descriptions or anything, just that's what they're doing. Also, after a long hiatus, Star Wars Insider Magazine is going to be publishing short stories again.
Okay.
Beginning with a High Republic one this December, written by Charles Soule. So it looks very interesting. I'm very excited to see it, and I cannot wait till this drops.
No, it definitely sounds interesting.
Yeah.
And there's one that I missed on Thursday, so I'm glad you brought that one back up, Pat, because there was so much going on this weekend. It was tough to get going and really organized for what was happening. I had actually one computer monitor on and my TV on the other, trying to get all the coverage going. Because with everything happening in New York Comic Con, there's just so much for the fans.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely incredible to see all this and try taking it all in. And I mean, especially going back to the Friday schedule when Marvel got going again too, this was definitely a fun day because we got a big news announcement. And I gotta say, when it's big news, and I say it's big news, which Marvel is also talking about another crossover happening. And it's Marvel's Venom King in Black. So this is Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman's swan song, I believe, to Eddie Brock.
So Donny Cates is going to be batshit crazy.
Oh, yes. And this one definitely hyped it up. And for crossovers, like I know we talked about last time about X of Swords and like when that gets going. I know it's happening right now. I have to catch up on it because there's so many books in the X-Men line. It's tough to follow everything. So I believe they're on like part 4 now of the crossover. So I need to catch up on. So it was great having this panel to get an idea what's happening, and also to kind of follow back with Venom, because I have not been reading Venom lately, but I know when I started reading Venom, the Cates and Stegman took over the character Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
They actually made him into an A-lister.
Yeah, pretty much.
And where Cates has been given the freedom to really develop has been truly something to see. And the whole evolvement of how the symbiotes are from a planet. We have Null, and how he's now become a major player in the MCU, as in the Marvel comic universe. This is something to really get excited about. Cates was actually at his parents' house writing, and he was talking. and he was just talking about like how he grew up, and he would tape Venom issues to the wall, like in his polybag, because that's how much of a fan he was. And you can just tell about how excited he was about the character and just the passion that he brought with this. I always thought he was a big Venom fan. I did not realize he was that big. And to hear also from Ryan Stegman about drawing symbiotes and just how he's been given complete permission to do whatever he wanted and really take those in a different direction. You have to just really sit back and think, like, Venom used to be Spider-Man's villain, and that was all he was.
Pretty much.
And now he's grown into this own entity in Marvel, and now he's having one of the biggest crossovers happening. I know Kate's was mentioned about the Writers' Summit and how it was so centered around King in Black, which is a story about how Null is now coming to Earth.
Yeah.
And what happens there, and they said if you thought Absolute Carnage was something, expect a bigger body count.
Oh, boy.
And he was just saying if you really need to get caught up on everything, Venom 40 is going to be something you really want to go check out. And it's a big moment in issue 1 that you're going to say this is what establishes Null as the huge threat. He said 3 stories you definitely want to read in the trilogy is Venom Rex, Absolute Carnage, and King in Black, and also read Silver Surfer Black as well to have a little benefit from it. And I'm not sure if it was Venom 40 or he said an issue after, but we are going to be talking legacy numbers again with Marvel. Venom 200 is coming out in 2021.
Wow.
Like, how crazy is that?
That's nuts.
I remember it was Lethal Protector and how he rolled out from that, and he was in San Francisco running crazy, which is a lot of what the Venom movie was based off of.
Right.
Love it or hate it. But it was just something that it took me a second to realize, like, Marvel has really been sticking to the characters a lot, even though it feels like we have a reboot every 3 minutes.
Yeah, it definitely has that vibe to it.
Yeah, which, I mean, it's not a shot at Marvel. It's just how they do their business with restarting franchises. I'm used to the old school way of remembering, like, oh, do you remember Incredible Hulk 181 was Wolverine's first appearance? Like, that's my philosophy about comics. So when you can remember, like, somebody's first appearance, that's where it stands. It's not like, okay, which volume of X-Men did I read here that this happens and goes from there. It's like, you know, you just have to kind of put that in perspective. So to see what Marvel does with this is something interesting. And like I said, I thought they had very strong comic panels, and I thought that really helped. We didn't get a big MCU announcement. I know some people online were very upset about that.
Deal with it. We know what's coming.
Yeah, we know it's
like, I've been saying this for 6 months. Like, I get people are pissed off they didn't have anything in San Diego. They announced everything they were doing last year. Like, nothing has changed in a year other than they're filming stuff. Cool, awesome. Like, I get you want to see trailers, but they're not ready yet.
Yeah, so just everybody's got to sit back and relax. We do have some MCU news to talk about per se in one shot, so we'll get to that a little later. But for what Marvel brought to the table here, it was not bad.
No.
Not bad at all. So I was very happy with what I saw. Kudos to Marvel, another great NYCC weekend. And passing on to what else was happening on Friday. The Stand showed off a new trailer for December 17th coming out on CBS All Access. So if you're a fan of the Stephen King book, you'll have something to look forward to. You won't be able to listen to Everything's Going to Be All Right in the same manner, but it looked good. I'm intrigued by it. I'm not the biggest Stephen King guy or The Stand either, so it's going to be something that if I catch, I catch.
It's funny. I got a funny Stephen King story. I was out at Barnes & Noble over the weekend checking out some books, and I was near the whatever section Stephen King is in, and I was reading the cover or the back cover of a book I was kind of interested in seeing what it was about, and I overheard this woman go, "Oh, there seems to be a lot of Stephen King books here. I guess he's still writing these days, isn't he?" And I'm thinking, where the fuck have you been?
Sometimes it hits you like that. It's just weird to hear the recaps. But The Stand, like I say, is going to carry on the Stephen King legacy. December 17th is when it drops on CBS All Access. So a lot of stuff to be excited if you're a fan of that.
Yeah.
Another thing to be excited about is BBC America's The Watch. Now, this was something I had not heard about.
No.
But it's one of those, as I've stated before, if you go to a con, you want to go check out a panel you don't know anything about, you'll probably be happily surprised. This was along the same vein because I knew absolutely nothing about it, and except BBC was involved. Yvette Nicole Brown was moderating the panel.
Okay.
So I was already sold on that. I think she's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'll just read it off findthemetaverse.com because it's the easiest way to describe it. The Watch follows an unlikely group of misfits, the City Watch, who are forced to find the guts to save the world, surprising even themselves in the process. The comedic yet thrilling series pits trolls, werewolves, wizards, and other improbable heroes against an evil plot to resurrect a giant dragon that would lead to the destruction of life as they know it. It looks fun. It looks
that's good.
Over the top a little bit in cases. it's definitely got some room to really capture you. I liked what I saw. I'm not gonna front. I really liked what I saw. I'm probably gonna give it a watch when it comes out in January 3rd.
Okay.
So something a little different. And like I say, it's just something that when a panel has that much energy, I'll be willing to give it a watch. Also, talking about panels, and I know, Pat, this is one near and dear to your heart. Batman Beyond.
Oh, yes.
So Will Friedle, Kevin Conroy, and
Yes.
Andrea Romano were talking back about the 20-plus years of Batman Beyond. Why don't you tell our listeners your feelings about Batman Beyond?
Batman Beyond is a very good story that, because I grew up when Batman the Animated Series was in its run and its heyday, and even in the Superman the Animated Series, and then when they brought back Batman, the new Batman Animated Adventures, or whatever the hell they called it. And then when they came with Batman Beyond, my first initial reaction was, what in the world is this? This isn't the nothing about it was the Batman that I knew. It kind of starts off, and it hits you right at the start. If you get a chance to watch the first episode, I believe it's on DC Universe right now, but we'll probably be moving over to HBO Max in the next couple of months. The first episode starts off, and it's a very obviously aged Bruce Wayne. He's got some gray hair, got a little bit of weight put on, and he's in the Batman Beyond suit, and he's taken, and it seems like it's this routine mission. Oh, you got a gang of thugs, in a warehouse, look like they're transporting weapons illegally. So he goes in, he stops them, and he's having particular trouble with this one guy. He takes the gun out of his hand, and he almost kills him. And at that point, he decides, okay, time for me to put this down. So he puts the cowl down, and he quits becoming Batman. We'll flash forward 20 years, and it's in the future. Cars are flying. Everything looks futuristic. The art style is completely different from what you saw with either Batman Animated Series iteration. And it was such a wild take that it's, okay, Bruce Wayne is aged. He's got a cane. He's a little hunched over. He's got a dog, a Great Dane, or I forget what the dog is, to help him out. And you've got this young kid named Terry McGinnis, who initially stumbles upon it and ends up becoming Batman. And, the suit can fly without a grappling hook, and it's got jet boosters on his feet, and he's got a flying car. And spoiler alert, he's the clone of Bruce Wayne. The show is just all sorts of wild, and it was one that I wasn't entirely sold on, especially because it was, like I said, it was so different from Batman the Animated Series, where, like I said, Bruce is old, but Joker, until they did the movie, wasn't around. There was no Penguin. There was no Scarecrow. There was no Catwoman. There was no Poison Ivy. There was no Harley. Mr. Freeze made an appearance in at least one episode, I think, but it was like one or two episodes and then gone.
Yeah.
So it was just so different, but it was one that I ended up loving.
Yeah, no, Batman Beyond definitely carved its own niche in the Bat universe. I mean, now it's written in the canon, so I'm assuming we'll see it in the comic line officially DC. Much like Kingdom Come. Like, for me, because I always just remember the show as like its own separate universe, and they haven't really like had a crossover. I'm just waiting for Terry McGinnis to come into this timeline. I don't believe we've seen it yet. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen it yet. But no, Batman Beyond was such an inventive idea. At the time, and the fact that fans are gravitating towards it, and you give us Michael Keaton playing this in a live action already, Warner Brothers. I know you listen to the show. We do know that for a fact. Yeah,
and Batman Beyond, not directly in the show, but in a crossover they did with Justice League, did bring one of my favorite moments in Justice DC animation history. It was one where the Justice League went forward into the future, into the Batman Beyond portion of the timeline, and they end up meeting old Bruce Wayne and everybody else. So Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Hawk Girl, and everybody else are like, "Whoa, what the hell is this?" And they're just they know each other, and old Bruce has got a smirk on his face. You can find the clip on YouTube if you look it up. Justice League meets Batman Beyond. And they meet each other, and Batman is goes, "Huh," and he goes, and old Bruce Wayne goes, "Surprised?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm surprised I lived this long."
Yeah.
And Terry McGinnis comes up. He goes, "Bruce Wayne, Batman, Bruce Wayne, or do you two already know each other?"
Yeah.
It's a great moment.
It's so cool. And like I say, I really hope that in the upcoming years we'll get like a definitive answer like Kingdom Come, if it's going to be the future of DC's timeline.
That would be nice.
They keep resetting so much that if it's happened, I don't even know if it still has happened.
Yeah.
It's just how DC Comics does their business. And I'm not hating on them, but it's just, you see how many times they reset the timeline. So, like, is it part of it? Is it not? Or is it just standalone? We don't know.
Yeah.
But this was a fun panel to watch. I mean, obviously, Kevin Conroy is a king at cons.
Everything.
So, I mean, read about it. And keeping in the Batman universe, the next panel up that I want to talk about
Okay.
had to be arguably one of my favorites.
Okay.
Not because of what you're going to think, but it was Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV
Oh,
just talking.
that's cool.
It was a conversation, and it was like two old friends just catching up about things. They really deep dived into what everybody's been doing on Batman. And It was a lot of like Scott Snyder praising Tynion's run, which it's been epic.
Yeah,
like it's hit the ground strong.
Yeah.
Going a lot of different directions. That if Joker War is just wrapped up.
Yep.
And where they're going with the new Gotham vibe, it's brilliant. So,
well, and I think that was one thing that even Scott brought up towards the beginning of the panel was that he's talking about Tynion's run, and I think he said, even, and I might be paraphrasing, you're taking Batman in directions and stories that I never would have dreamed of.
Yeah, no, he fully is. Like I always say, Snyder and Capullo's run is my favorite one of Batman.
Yep,
and it is. It still holds up. I do like Tom King's. I know it kind of goes in some different directions at times, but overall, I really enjoy it because what you see is in Snyder and Capullo's run, they put the fear in the bat. King's run, he puts the man in the bat. Tynion's run, he puts the anxiety into the bat, which is so weird to think about. But everything that has been Batman about calm, cool, collective has now been flipped on a 180.
and especially a guy who you think of some of the moments, death of the family, Nightfall where Bane breaks his back, and Killing Joke, and just some of the crap he's been put through the ringer. That you still, Tynion is finding a way to still mentally push him and mentally find those holes that you'd think he's scarred all over, metaphorically speaking, but Tynion's still finding a way that, oh, no, there's still some knives that we can stick in you and twist a little bit.
Yeah, like I say, that's why he puts the anxiety, because if he forces Batman to relook at how he fights crime on every level, like, that is some mind-blowing stuff right there. Because you think about how Batman is written, and I know that there was an amazing poll posted, I want to say, by our friends over at Villains Demand. What up, JVD? What up, Ev? What up, Hawk? And they posted about who is the worst villain or worst hero in comics. And actually, Batman got votes.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was a Wednesday poll, and I believe our friends formerly from Ghost of the Stratosphere, Stu World Order Productions, all chimed in. They said, yeah, Batman is overrated, and this is why. And it's so crazy to think about, because for the majority of people, they think Batman's invincible. And he's he's the ultimate level of human perfection, if you really wanted to deep dive into that. But to see how Tynion has broken him internally and now made him relook at everything, and that's why I say he puts the anxiety into the bat, because now Batman has to reassess everything and going through the smallest of details. It's truly been a phenomenal run.
Yeah.
Like I say, thus far. And I can't wait to see where he's going. I know he's introduced a ton of new characters. Obviously, everybody's jumping on the Punchline bandwagon.
Yeah.
Which I'm expecting her to have another big year in 2021.
Oh, yeah.
She's getting near, like, the weird Harley Quinn hero. Like, I don't want to say hero level, but popularity level.
Yeah, like, she's a good character, don't get me wrong, but I'm not 100% sold on her.
Yeah, like, I think it just...
I gotta see more.
Yeah, I gotta see some more. But, I mean, great start. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But for, like, everybody you talk to about it is like, whoa, like, pump brakes. Great character, great run, but, like, let's not crown him after one win, like for that character. Tynion you can crown.
Oh, yeah.
He's writing a masterful run. So to hear those two go back and forth, and obviously you heard Snyder talk a little bit about death metal and how everything matters. Like that was the point he drove home about it, because obviously trying to translate everything going on with Dark Knight's death metal and metal itself, it's a wild ride. It's insanity on paper, but it's beautifully written and drawn. And to see that they're tying in every single element from the DCU and how every crisis has mattered and everything, and just how they could almost reset the timeline, but yet if you do, you lose the value of what makes you the hero. Like, it's so, like, leveled thing.
Yeah.
It's freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
And to hear those two just break it down, like, I was like, this is the panel I like, because they didn't really give anything away.
Sure.
Kind of teased some stuff, sure, but it was just them talking about the impact of each other in writing, and it was just such a fun conversation. Those are the best ones at con. So I was, like I said, I truly love this panel. And obviously you should go buy everything from both of these writers because they're freaking amazing. Next up, though, was a panel that was near and dear to us. WWE Raw 30 years of Drew McIntyre, Selena Vega, and Triple H talking about all things Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
So it was like a little fun throwback, and it was some personal stories from Zelina and Drew Mac that I was very interested in seeing.
Oh, yeah. No, it's always good to hear those behind-the-scenes stories because everything is so, like, especially with WWE, it's so much in the public and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and, you know, promoting and videos and Twitch and this and that. You don't really get to see the behind-the-scenes stuff until they do something on the network. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's good to hear these behind, and especially when you have a guy who's not with the company anymore. It's always fun to see those hear and read those interviews, you know, that they talk about behind the scenes. And just some of the stuff that goes on. Yeah,
it definitely was. So to hear them really kind of break down what Monday Night Raw means to them and just where they've really stepped up their game and really gone with is truly something really cool to see. So, like, I always like those, I want to say vignettes because they kind of feel like that a little bit.
Sure.
But those little video chats that they have, and the only thing it was kind of telling is, it's pre-taped.
Yeah, I mean, you got that with everything, though.
Yeah, but this was, like, I believe right after Night of Champions.
Oh,
so,
okay.
like, like, I think at one point they basically say it, and I was like, really that long ago? Like, it's that polished, but it is what it is. So I wasn't mad about it. Obviously, big WWE fans here on the ODPH.
Sure.
Next up, though, was a panel from Sci-Fi.
Okay.
And they're doing a comic. Now, is it Deadly Class Reunion? No. Should be. Take note. Bring it back. All is forgiven. No, Sci-Fi rolled out Resident Alien. Now, this is a comic based off, or a show based off a Dark Horse comic with Alan Tudyk in the leading role. And I did not realize, our friends over the Geekdom Fancast were mentioned that this panel already happened last year, like they teased it a little bit. So I actually missed this. So this is the first time I got a chance to see it. And this looks really interesting. It's a story, it's kind of like a dark humor story.
Sure.
That you have an alien that comes to Earth because he's doing like an invasion type deal.
Okay.
He crashes his ship in Colorado during the snow wintertime.
Always good.
Yeah, so he can't find like the vital piece that he needs. So he goes and discovers a doctor that's in the woods and essentially kills him and takes his role. So he assumes himself as human until he is needed to come into town where he has to be a doctor and perform medical duties. So that's kind of where the basis is. It's Alan Tudyk, though. So, I mean, really, do I need to sell you anymore? It looks absolutely fantastic. I am definitely on board with this show. I'm very interested to see when it comes out in January 2021. We saw the first 10 minutes, and like I said, everything really was interesting to see how this is going on with this alien and just the whole fish out of water vibe.
Right.
So something to stay tuned for Sci-Fi in the next year. And like I said, if they wanted to bring back Deadly Class, hey, all is forgiven as far as I'm concerned. Next up, though, on the panel list was Starr's American Gods. So if you're a fan of the show, they definitely appeased you, shall we say.
Okay.
Gave you a lot of information about it and where they're going, and it was a fun panel. Like
That's
I said,
good.
I was really kind of tied up between a few other things I was doing at the time, but it caught the basis of it, and like I say, it's one of the panels that everybody keeps raving about from Con. So I got to go back and rewatch it, and obviously it's been an interesting show. It's an interesting story if you've ever read it, so something to keep your eyes out for from Starz. Like I say, they kind of fly under the radar with their shows a little bit. So definitely one that a lot of people are talking about, so they got to go check that out. But for me, this was the most surprising panel of Friday. Boom Studios Berserker.
Is that the same crew that does the WWE comics?
Yes.
Okay.
And this comic, though, very interesting.
Okay.
Because, Pat, do you know who is behind this?
Nope.
One Neo. Keanu Reeves.
Oh, okay. You said Neo. I was thinking the singer.
Yes, no. This is Keanu Reeves' Kickstarter book that he did with Matt Kint and Ron Garney.
Interesting.
It's a absolutely wild concept.
Is he going to sign books with You're Amazing?
I imagine so.
That'd be awesome.
And like I know we were having this debate on twitch.tv/607podcast with Rich from 3FN about like the whole Kickstarter idea. And the more I'm thinking about it is I think they went Kickstarter because even though it's Keanu Reeves, how is the book going to be received?
True.
So like I say, it's kind of like a different setup for it. And I know like Keanu could basically do whatever Keanu wants, and I'm sure he'd be all set there.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I also know that's been done in other instances, specifically with video games, where there's not a huge financial backing with it, but like they turn to Kickstarter to get it going. Sometimes it's worked, other times it's bitten them in the ass.
Yeah, so I think that this is already something a little kind of crazy to think about for him doing. But for Kickstarter, that's something that's been happening a lot in the comic industry now.
Right.
And I know that Snyder and Tony Daniel have a book called Noctura coming out via Kickstarter. I know David Pepos has a book coming out Kickstarter-wise, The Oz. Brian from Cheers to Comics is always talking about these Kickstarter projects coming out, because I think a lot of creators are really trying to do that in this market, because unless it's Marvel or DC, it's kind of a 50-50 gamble in some aspects right now with the current climate. So, I mean, in my opinion. So I think this is kind of a smart idea for it. Just going to see who would really be interested with it, because obviously when a movie star takes his talents or her talents to a comic, it doesn't always say box office boom. But this one was very interesting, with like a half mortal, half god that's like a government agent, and it's like it's a wild story. It's like half Conan, half Exo Man or not Exo Man of War, Iron Man, which basically is Exo Man of War, but it was like different. It was more, like I say, more Conan than sci-fi, in my opinion, from what I got from the gist of it. But it's like he's working for the government, and they're covering up his violent actions, and because they get to experiment on him. Like, it's a freaking wild thing to hear like what's going on with this. So that being said, it is an interesting plot to watch and see what's going on with it. They've already said it's going to be 12 issues, and like I say, he's an eternal warrior that's, like I said, he's half god, half mortal. Like, it's something absolutely crazy to see like what's going on with this. But it's something that if you're a Keanu Reeves fan, you're going to definitely check out. It's a violent as all heck series. So that being said, if you're definitely into it, go check it out on the Kickstarter.com projects page, and you can definitely find it and check it out. I mean, it was an interesting panel. Like I said, first time I heard about it.
Sure.
Because I heard some rumblings he was doing a comic, but I was like, what is this? And now it's like, okay, here we go. But next up to close out Friday, though, was Hulu. Now, Hulu had a monster schedule, no pun intended.
I see what you did there.
Because they kicked off, I mean, obviously Friday night they did Books of Blood.
Right.
So they've been doing a lot of horror content lately. And this one was also talking about their Monsterland show coming out, which was very interesting. It's already started. There's 8 episodes that started on October 2nd. They had some of the cast on, including one Kelly Marie Tran, who's part of it.
Okay.
Mike Coulter, who we know from Luke Cage. So it was a very cool show, just kind of talking about the short stories of, you know, what's going on here. And you got the vibe that, okay, Hulu's really invested in this show. And the cast had a lot to say about it. So this was something very fun, very exciting to check out. And like I said, it started October 2nd. The big panel, though, from Hulu, though, MODOK.
Oh, okay.
So this was the first Offenders show that we got to see. A lot of stop motion with one Patton Oswalt voicing the... how do you even describe MODOK?
I have no idea, and I've beaten him in a video game.
Yeah, like he is cult following.
Yeah.
Just to see where he's gone from being this really C-list villain in Marvel's history.
That was honestly, I remember from fewer times he showed up on the animated stuff in the 90s of being very forgettable.
Yeah,
and I don't mean that in a bad way. Just that was just how he was presented. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, he's there.
He has this weird cult following. I mean, that's the only thing you can talk about. Like, you see him, and he's just this ginormous head with stick figure arms and legs.
Yeah,
that can float and is MODOK.
Yeah,
but Patton Oswalt definitely brought the funny to this. And like I said, the stop animation looked very cool, because you hear about how AIM is more or less going out of business. And he is basically working business deals with Grumble and like another evil organization. You meet his family, so you meet his wife and his son, who is invented in a lab, and like it just goes places. It looks freaking hysterical, though. Like, this definitely lived up to the hype. So I'm on board.
Sure.
I was on the fence about this. I am now sold on the show. I know that it's coming out sometime in 2021, because we didn't get a full release date. So unless they pull something super crazy, I'm guessing this is going to be 2021. No release date was announced for this.
It's on Hulu right now. No, I'm kidding.
You know what? It could be one of those things that they drop out of nowhere.
Probably.
Because the fan reaction to this was very, very positive. I have to really push this over. But to close out, though, for Friday was another Hulu show. It is one that I will admit is a very, very polarizing reaction here at the panel. Hulu's Hellstrom.
Oh, yeah.
So we did see the first 10 minutes of the first episode, which is premiering Friday, October 16th.
Interesting.
So all 10 episodes are going to drop then too. We know that this is more or less going to be one and done unless something really crazy happens with the ratings.
Doubt it.
Yeah, like I said, you think it's going to go longer?
No, I doubt it. I doubt it's going to go any longer.
Yeah, that's what
I doubt it's. You were saying unless something crazy happens, I doubt something crazy is going to happen.
Yeah, I doubt it too. But who knows? We could be wrong. This could really wind up being a super hit. They did have the cast on, and from what we could tell from the first episode, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Lucifer. I mean, obviously, you know the character Damien Hellstrom. You know there is a little connection, so to speak. Very unique person in the MCU comics universe. So, obviously, where the show is going, the trailer, it was very hard to watch, though. It's just the lighting was kind of a little crazy. But to see where this is going to go moving forward, I'm going to give it a shot when it comes out on the 16th. And we'll kind of see where we go with it. And for Hulu, though, Hulu had a very strong Friday, I got to admit. So, Pat, before we wrap up Friday, any final thoughts on that?
A lot of great stuff. Almost hard to keep up with at times. And, you know, for his kind of questioning and wondering if this would live up to the hype, it so far has.
Yeah, no, definitely. 2 days in, it lived up to the hype. I know we did recap shows every night on twitch.tv/607podcast with the whole 607 podcast fam, but for the ODPH, it's been a win thus far. We're going to actually sneak out, get a quick break. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPH. Days 1 and 2 of New York Comic Con. What's your vibe? What's your take? What's your feelings? We want to know. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, this is Nerd Bomber here, one of the co-hosts of the Online Warriors podcast. Our weekly podcast started as a way for 3 friends to keep in touch and discuss their passion for movies, gaming, technology, and entertainment. And since then, we've grown into a fantastic online community. Every Wednesday, we release a new episode discussing the latest nerdy news, and then we go hands-on with our weekly adventures and a fun trivia show. Sound interesting? Check us out on every podcast platform, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or hit us up at onlinewarriorspodcast.com.
Hi, this is Tyler from Second Suitor, and you're listening to the ODPH podcast. I want you to get it. I want you to understand. I'm doing the best I can, but not as good as I want to be. I just want to get it. I just want to comprehend that I have to make amends with the monster.
Coming back for segment number 2 on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we are still recapping the event that was New York Comic Con 2020. We gave you days 1 and 2 in the last segment. We're going to talk 3 and 4 in this one, and they did not take the foot off the gas pedal with this one.
No.
I have to admit, I was doing the original preview show, and I was thinking Saturday was going to be a quiet day. Turned out to be a complete surprise.
Oh.
Happily surprised, though.
It's always good.
Yeah, so for me, it kicked off with the Doctor Who Time Lord Victorious panel.
Yeah.
Now, this has been an absolutely wild story.
And concept.
Yeah. So, Pat, you want to break it down a little bit?
Yeah, so this is just, again, it's kind of in the same vein as the Star Wars High Republic thing, but in this instance, it's comics, it's books. I think they're doing audiobooks as well, where and they're having multiple doctors cross over. I think Christopher Eccleston is tagged to something in this at one point, you know, but they're involving Matt Smith's doctor, they're involving David Tennant's doctor, you know, it's just absolutely bonkers the places they're going with this.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy to hear where they came up with this concept, and just for all the places they're going, comics, audio, novels, digital, escape rooms. Yeah, that's somewhere involved with it.
Yeah.
And I love how there's a blogger online, I want to say it's Blogger Who, posted this tweet, and it was treat it like the MCU. That you don't have to follow everything with the story, but you'll have a deeper appreciation for the story if you do. So that being said, it was a really cool concept. Like I said, I heard from a couple other people online too that had the same concept. That it's very MCU relatable too. So that being said, I was very interested with this panel, especially how it's broken down. They were hyping up that we're going to have a Dalek Emperor figure.
Oh boy,
which has been long awaited. And they also showed a little bit of the preview of the Daleks animated series.
Oh, okay. I think I've heard something about this.
Yeah, which is coming to the Doctor Who YouTube channel.
Oh, okay.
In November. So they did show this, and I will say this: the animation looked very old school CG. So it's very, very easy to tell computer based on this.
Sure.
It did, it was what it was. I wasn't mad about it. Very intrigued by it. So definitely want to give it a little view when it comes out in November. And we did hear about the Mechanoids were coming back as well.
Ooh.
So they were deep diving in some Doctor Who history. So like I say, Who had a strong weekend, from Friday, Saturday, and then we'll get to Sunday when we get to Sunday. Because they had a mic drop moment if I've ever seen one. But they definitely started off Saturday right. I do have to give a quick shout out, though. There was some very early morning panels that were diving into doing origami and learning Japanese.
Sure.
And there was one panel I definitely want to give a shout out to, which was how to draw manga in 15 minutes.
Good. Oh, Jesus.
Mizaku rocks. Follow her on Instagram.
Uh-huh.
Super fun panel. Actually did it.
Oh, cool.
But I screwed up because I was drawing with pen.
Okay.
So I
fair.
have to rewatch the video and do it in pencil, but
Fair.
It was working. It looked awesome.
That's nuts.
So like I say,
I didn't think you'd be able to do that in 15 minutes, like legitimately, but I guess I'm wrong.
yeah, no, it legit. And I wish I still had it, so I'm going to rewatch the video and try doing it in pencil. Maybe I'll post it on IG. We'll see. But definitely follow her on IG, MISAKOROCKS. Awesome job. So I definitely want to give that a quick plug. Next up, though, was a fun panel. It was a little tease, not exactly what I was expecting. Dark Knight's death metal matchup. So this one was a very cool concept. This was something that threw me for a loop. Jimmy Palmiotti was moderating this, and we had Amanda Connor, Sanford Green, Francis Manipal, Mags Vizaccio, and and Mark Wade, and they were literally just going, okay, here is a classic DC Comics panel with no words. Rewrite it. So they had the infamous one with Batman slapping Robin. You've seen it everywhere. And they're all coming up with their own commentary.
That's going to be hard to write for because there's been so many good quotes put with that image.
Yeah, so they start off with that. And then they had the Tale of the Two Flashes, so you know how they did this on the TV show.
Yeah.
Everybody run through the brick wall. They did the same thing there.
Oh,
and
cool.
It was a fun panel. Like that, I just have to plug that. If you really want a good laugh, it was just fun. They're all kind of kicking around just different stuff to post up there. So definitely worth the while to check out. But next up was one that Pad was very excited about, and I was listening to Sid Meier for the first time.
Yeah.
And this, Pad, do you want to break down who Sid Meier is?
Sid Meier is a legendary video game creator and one that really put video games on the map. Whereas before, at one point they were just kind of like this niche art, genre, or not even genre, medium, where not a lot of people took it serious. It was kind of this thing, but it's when they finally started. A lot of people started finally taking it seriously, and you could tell that stories could be told, and that there was something there.
Yeah, Sid Meier was breaking down his memoir book that is out.
Yeah.
Life in Computer Games. So it just came out in September, so it's definitely worthwhile picking up if you're a fan of the history of video games. And obviously what he was talking about in creating Civilization and Railroad Tycoon. I didn't realize he was the person behind that. Like I remember playing that one for time on end. And just his overall thoughts on just gaming in general.
Still got to answer why Gandhi likes to nuke people in that game.
Yeah.
It's a thing. Look it up on YouTube. It's wild.
Yeah, I did not catch that if he did say it in the panel. But just talking about his startup from 1982 to now is like, it was just a wild recap.
And it's one of the gaming stables, that just... It's got its audience and it's got its fandom and it's people who like it, but it's one of those things that I've never played one, but even I know what the hell it is.
Yeah, it was just something that it captured me enough that I was like, okay, it sounds like a very good book to read. So definitely something worthwhile checking out, especially hearing just hearing how somebody got enthralled with the life of video games and how to set the standard. Definitely a wild take on it, but it was something worthwhile checking out. Next up on my block there was a little D&D block back-to-back, so to speak. Now, I have not heard of this group, Pad. You might have. The Oxventurers?
No, I don't think I have.
So I will just read off the findthemetaverse.com preview for this. The heroes of the chaotic Dungeons & Dragons crew, the Oxventurers Guild, find themselves once again transported to the fantasy realm of D&D into the sci-fi setting of tabletop RPG, lasers, and feelings. And this was a group that has a lot of fun, and they were just kind of doing like a live-action D&D was kind of the vibe I got from it. It was fun, and I gotta say, from the viewership on it, they got a fan base because they all tuned in, and they were.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was something worthwhile checking out. I am not the biggest D&D person. I've said this before on the show. I might be getting roped into the 607 Podcast, Twitch, D&D gaming. Because I know Rich and Diesel threw it out there, and it's like, if I have time, I would not mind trying it. I'm not going to say I'm going to go full on board with it. There's a lot of great D&D podcasts out there you want to go check out. Stranger Damies, I'm talking to you, because they do a phenomenal job. I'll give them a free plug. And countless others that we're friends with on in our podcasting ways here. So this, I could definitely understand the vibe from it. So we're going to have to wait and see and how it rolls over. And then they also were talking about a cookbook at the same time too. It was a separate panel, but it was Dungeons and Dragons and cooking. So there is a D&D cookbook that's coming out. So it was something, something a little fun. I mean, like I say, this is what you kind of find at cons. There's just like these little curveballs that you're not expecting.
Right.
So it was something to check out if you're a fan of RPGs. You definitely got to go do that, and might have something up your alley.
Yeah.
But next was definitely a panel, Pat. I know you were amped up to hear about, and that is Smallville.
Yes.
So 20 years of fandom,
Christ almighty,
friendship,
already.
and flying. And this was a hysterical panel.
Oh, I'm sure. That's the thing with television shows, especially when you go long enough. You can't go for 10 years working on a show together, especially with Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum, and not become friends.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. Sam Witwer also joined him, Laura Van Vroot. And the stories they were telling were freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And you heard about like how Rosenbaum wanted to do the story about body switching with Tom Welling.
That would have been incredible.
Yeah, and
because they kind of did something like that. Because I can say this because I'm rewatching the series. Season 1, there was an episode fairly early on. I want to say it was like within the first 6 episodes or so, where Clark and his class are on a science trip to the woods someplace, and they're looking for fossils. And one of the classmates goes missing, and he goes, I'll go find him. And the kid's he's in a rough spot at home. You know, his parents really don't like him. He doesn't really have a lot of friends. So he's ready to just like end it all and jump off a bridge. Well, he's ready to jump. Thunderstorm pops up and he about falls off. Clark catches him. And because there's meteor rocks involved, and Clark gets hit with lightning, and it transfers his powers to this kid. And all of a sudden, Clark is just an average mannered, no superpowers guy, and this guy has all of his powers. So they kind of did something like that, but what Michael Rosenbaum pitched would have been an amazing idea.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounded dope, and it was something that they wish they did. They didn't give any tease that maybe they'd come back for a spinoff or, a quick run with the characters, but you never say never. It's
yeah.
They also gave some very funny stories. Sam Witwer was talking about naked body shaving.
Yeah, I can imagine. Because for those who don't know, he did play the human version, because that was a controversial thing at the time. He did play the human version of Doomsday, and he eventually became Doomsday as we know it, which would have been real weird because Superman timeline, he should have gotten his ass whooped at that point because he wasn't Superman quite yet, but whatever. No, it would have been awesome.
Yeah, no, the story is absolutely crazy too. I mean, because you have to hear him say it to fully justify it. But the story that I was dying at was Tom Welling was talking about. He was talking with John Schneider.
Oh yeah.
Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, played his father,
right.
Jonathan Kent.
Yeah, so he was talking with him about just the industry, and Schneider kept telling him, he's like, kid, you're gonna have to save your money.
Sure.
I've been around for a while, and
I'm hoping he heeded that advice.
Yeah, it was just one of those moments that he's like, trying to pass along advice and really, tip his hat. And he goes, Welling went on with this for 3 years. Like, he never mentioned why, that he knew he was on Dukes of Hazzard until finally season 3.
Oh, Christ.
He says something. Schneider says something to him, and Welling goes, "Well, yeah, I remember you were on the Dukes of Hazzard, and you did the scene, blah blah blah," and like he named it verbatim. And Schneider just kind of looks at him like, like, what do I say? Because for the entire time, Schneider thought Welling had no idea that he was in TV. He thought he was just like some.
Yeah, and I remember like that was the big thing with Schneider. And as I was reading this spoiler site years ago when it was on, that they wouldn't refer to him as Jonathan Kent. They'd refer to him as like Bo Kent or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, they're like, oh, and Bo Kent in this episode. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely hysterical. So hearing those four talking their stories, it was great. A good nostalgia throwback. Nothing about would we ever see them again in those roles.
Yeah.
Because, obviously everybody likes to throw that in there from time to time.
Yeah, I like the story Tom told where he was telling his parents that he got the role. He got the lead in Smallville.
Oh, that was a good one.
And his mom goes, wait, so you're Superman? And he told her, no, I'm not Superman. I'm Clark Kent. And then she went, but that's Superman. And he goes, no, I'm not Superman yet. And he said it's kind of this still thing that carries on where people come up to him and he plays Clark Kent, and Clark Kent is Superman. They go, oh, you're Superman. And he goes, yeah, no, but yeah. So that was a great story.
Absolutely great time. So that was probably the highlight for me for Saturday.
Yeah.
But then we go right into the Walking Dead block of panels. Now, I will say this. I was actually happily surprised with 2 of them, and I was somewhat disappointed with one of them. And it'll kind of throw you off of which ones were which. We kicked off with Fear the Walking Dead. And they gave about first 10 minutes of the first season premiere, which just happened. Looked fantastic. I will say this. I have been very critical over the years of Fear the Walking Dead.
Sure.
I think it has dramatically improved ever since they added Lenny James to the show. I think that has been the smartest move that they could have done for the longevity of the show.
Sure.
He has been phenomenal as Morgan Jones, and to extend his character and let him be the star is perfect. Where they went with this, I will just tease a little bit because I want to deep dive into this next week. They showed a bounty hunter and how he was setting up and working for headhunting people, is recaptured the horror and said he was going after Morgan because somebody put a bounty out on his head. It looked absolutely great. The one thing that the producers were saying, Scott Gimple and company, is this going to be told in anthology style for the stories this year? So the vibe I'm getting is going to be told a lot like how Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was in their blocks.
Okay. Which works.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect about it. Because I know they teased on the previous day about the showrunner summit.
Yeah.
And there really, honestly, wasn't a lot to report about. They were
Sure.
kind of just
shooting shit.
Yeah, they're just shooting shit and just throwing ideas about like who would possibly be in one of the anthologies, because it's going to be called Tales from the Walking Dead. I know, crazy original. But,
yeah.
And they were saying
Name
about...
broke.
Yeah, and somebody threw out about the doctor from the CDC that died the first one.
Oh, that'd be good.
That was a real good one.
That'd
Like
be good.
I think somebody just threw that, and then
I think a good. And now that I think about it, I think a good anthology, and folks at Walking Dead, if you're listening, you can feel free to use this idea. I think a good one would be like Atlanta as it was falling.
Yeah, they did have that Atlanta, and they had Virginia too.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, so they were throwing out some really cool ideas for it. No timetable, no nothing with that. But Fear had a great panel.
That's good.
I have to admit it was great. And then next up was World Beyond. And I will say this, World Beyond had a great panel.
Good for them.
I was shocked at this because I will admit, and like I said, we're going to save a little more of the Walking Dead deep dive for next week. We are going to be talking the season finale, though, at least the way we're calling it, next segment.
Air quotes, season finale.
But for what World Beyond did, it started out very strong, and I know when I was recapping with Rich from 3FN, who has not watched The Walking Dead in I don't know how long, was like freaking out about how good this was.
Right.
Because they do show about the kids now escaping from where they are, and the cast was very excited about it. Like I say, I'm still not sold on the series, but the footage that we saw from episode 2 was very, very cool. And I think once they get down to them versus the zombies and that kind of approach, I think that's where the show is going to work, when they go dark.
Yeah.
When they get really into source material. And what I mean by source material is they're not afraid to pull punches.
That's always good.
Yeah, they got back to a sense of early Walking Dead per se.
Yeah.
Per se.
Yeah.
But for this show, I really liked this panel. I was very on board with it. The one that I thought was very disappointing was the actual Walking Dead panel.
Which is a bummer.
Well, it was just basically everybody sitting around saying the same old thing.
Yeah.
And over and over. The one saving grace I will give it, though, is Norman Reedus and Jeffrey Dean Morgan and one other cast member jumped in the live chat.
Okay.
So even though it's pre-taped, they were in the YouTube chat.
That's good.
And talking with fans.
I mean, in terms of the actual panel, I can understand them not saying anything because they're in the middle of filming it. So their hands are probably kind of tied in that aspect.
Yeah, it was, but it was like also at the same time, it was like it just kind of seemed like you're going through the motions.
Sure.
Like everybody else had this real good energy about them, and it seemed like everybody except Norman and Jeffrey Dean Morgan were just like there. In my opinion.
Sure, but I think in the other instance, with World Beyond, okay, that's all filmed. They're all done with. Fear the Walking Dead, same thing. That's all done. They're all done with. So like they can tease and hint at things because they know what's coming and they're not going to get in trouble. in Walking Dead's aspect, like I said, they're still freaking filming. Like, it's early on in the process.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I was like, I figured they would say at least something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they really were keeping everything just pretty plain and dry. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I think the only thing we got out of it was Scott Gimple talking about the Rick Grimes movie again.
Yeah, he mentioned something about that, and he said
Yeah.
Michonne would be returning at some point.
Well,
now,
he said they're working on it. Wouldn't go into any further detail. And then Angela Kang said she ended up teasing fans that they may learn more about Rick and Michonne in the extra 6 episodes that were ordered for season 10, airing sometime in the spring. So maybe we get some hints from Judith. Maybe we get some hints from Maggie. Maybe Michonne ran into Maggie in her travels.
Yeah, so we get something out of that. I mean, that's the only thing we can kind of look forward to, but
Yeah.
it was just pretty much wash, rinse, repeat. Like I say, nothing really stuck out to me too much. I was hoping we got a little more information about the side shows. They were just talking more
Sure.
about, like, well, Darryl and Carol. I was like, okay,
They probably haven't even written scripts for that
right,
yet.
which I was just kind of like, okay, why are we even bringing it up? You know,
Sure.
like I guess I know I'm a little extra critical of it, but I expect more from them because I've gone to their panels live.
Right.
I remember when they used to be the hottest ticket at NYCC.
Yeah,
And now it's like, we'll wait and see.
sure.
But overall, I mean, Walking Dead had a great day.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, the 2 surprises were very good surprises, so I was sold on that.
Yeah.
Next up was the Hunger Games panel.
Oh, yes.
Now, this was talking with Nina Jacobson, who is a producer of the Hunger Games films,
Mm-hmm.
and also David Leviathan, who was the publisher of the books.
Yep.
So they're kind of talking a little behind-the-scenes stuff going on with the story and how they brought it to life. I didn't catch where they said they were doing a prequel series.
There's a book. There's a book that came out. When did it come out? June? July?
Okay.
Some point within this year. Earlier this year, there is a prequel book set 70 years, I want to say, before the Hunger Games books itself that came out. I've still got to read it. I've got a lot of books I got to read.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for it. I've heard very good things.
Yeah, I didn't really catch too much of it. I'm not the biggest Hunger Games person in the world, but I know you are, so
Yeah.
I was like trying to catch up on it and just like I was a little confused by that because everybody in the chat started lighting up about prequel.
Well,
Like,
they may. I mean, if the book's good enough, I got to look up who the actor is that played. The book is based off of the character President Snow when he was in the Hunger Games, if I'm not mistaken. I can picture the guy's face, but I can't remember who the actor
was it. Woody Harrelson?
No. Well, Woody Harrelson is in the movie. No, who is this guy? I'm looking through the names. It's going to jump out at me as soon as I see it. You got to forgive me. I'm going to pause for effect here. Looking through it. Oh, Christ. What's the guy? Donald Sutherland. That's what it is. Donald Sutherland plays President Snow in the movie. So maybe if they get Donald Sutherland to play him in this movie, if they do decide to do a prequel movie, I'd be all for it.
Yeah, I mean, there'd definitely be a fan base for it. I mean, obviously the chat was very interactive, so that's where I was trying to pick up on stuff with it.
Yeah.
But it's going to be something to have to wait and see about.
Mm-hmm.
Out, though, next was the Batman Death in the Family animated
Oh,
film.
yeah.
Now, this we've talked about many times. It is now out on digital Blu-ray combo.
Oh, yes.
Because it started October 13th. And this was talking about, obviously, the 1988 story, which is the fate of one Jason Todd.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a very interesting panel. We did see some more footage about it. I am very interested to watch this because it's going to be done as choose-your-own-adventure style. And I just want to see how interactive it's going to be. So I'm very interested to see this. We have to give, though, a quick plug to our good friend Dre Driven, because he did make a live reaction video to this on his Twitter page. And one Vincent Martella responded.
Ooh.
Because he voices Jason Todd. Because Dre even said, he goes, yo, you got to kill Jason Todd. We get the Red Hood. And he just put it point blank. And Vincent replied back to him. He said, wait, you really want to kill me off? Like, it was a cool, fun back and forth between them. So you definitely got to do that. You should be following Dre anyway. He's awesome. So this movie, though, I'm very excited to see. I've heard kind of a little mixed on reviews early, but we know what we're expecting from this.
Right.
So I'm just more curious about how interactive we're going to be with the film. So definitely something to keep in mind for.
Mm-hmm.
Next on my list, though, Pad, was the one-on-one with Paul W.S. Anderson.
Oh, okay.
Now, he is the director behind Mortal Kombat #1. He has a new movie coming out called Monster Hunter, based off the Capcom game.
Okay.
It's Capcom's Monster Hunter. So Mila Jovovich, Tony Ya, T.I. is in this, and they're basically hunting big monsters. Sign me up.
I'll say that's enough for me.
Yeah. I don't need that much. I'm definitely into it. So I kind of want to see what we're going to have here. So that being said, have you ever played the video game?
No, I've seen gameplay of it though. It looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it definitely looked like. I haven't played it, and I'm just very interested to see how he does. And if it's anything like Mortal Kombat number 1, all right,
Yeah.
I'm definitely in for it. And then coming up though was a surprise panel for me to close out Saturday. And what I mean by this is I knew about this movie. I know the director. We were not exactly a fan of his X-Men franchise film, which was Dark Phoenix, but the 355
Yes.
panel was definitely a surprise hit for me.
That's good.
It was a surprise. I have to give a quick plug, though. It was not the biggest surprise of the weekend because I was so enamored with this other panel that I was going to mention it and give its own shine on Sunday, even though it was on Thursday. So this was my second surprise hit panel of the weekend, though, for the 355. And Jessica Chastain was leading the cast and crew along breaking down the spy thriller and just how much was going into it. Lupita Nyong'o, who we know from Black Panther.
Yep.
Diane Kruger was in this as well. And it had a little cameo from one Sebastian Stan who jumped in the thread. And they were really talking about this female-led espionage film. Action sequences look good. Everything about this looked good. I'm very excited about this, so we'll have to see what's going on. And like I said, this was my second biggest surprise panel of the weekend.
Yeah.
The film is due in theaters, asterisk, January 15th.
We hope.
We hope. I'm desperately hoping we get some movie theaters open, but I can only push for so much. But it was not the biggest surprise panel of the weekend. I guess I should just jump right into it because I was going to mention this later, but Quibi had the biggest surprise panel of the weekend.
Okay.
It was Marvel vs. DC, the Russo brothers and Kevin Smith talking superheroes on Slugfest. Now, this is a brand new show that's coming out on Quibi, and the Russo brothers are executive producers. And they are talking about the Marvel vs. DC competition and story, but relationship between each other. And the first episode, they are breaking down how Captain America was created. And you see one, Brandon Roth, is playing one of the creators.
Oh, okay.
So they definitely had a lot of star power with this. It was an exciting panel.
Yeah.
It was a very, very big surprise of how good this was. Like I said, I wanted to give it its own shine, but if I'm talking about panels of the weekend, this was my biggest surprise panel, and this definitely lived up to the expectations.
Yeah.
Could not hype this up even more. When this comes out in November, it's going to be something you definitely want to go check out. They sent us some very nice promotional art, so we say thank you to them as well.
Yeah.
We were definitely hyped up about this and cannot wait to see where we are going with this series. For Quibi, I don't know a lot about, but I'm definitely locked in for this panel, for this show when it comes out. It looked freaking fantastic. And just to hear the stories about how Captain America was created, we see a young Stan Lee in this as well, so it's just such a cool throwback. But overall, I mean, like I say, Comic-Con has been delivered, and we're 3 days in, so to take it home, we go to Sunday. Now, Sunday's usually the quiet day, Pat.
Yeah, usually. Kids' Day, I think, is what it's usually known as at New York Comic-Con proper, but something tells me they didn't just keep it quiet.
No, we had another big Doctor Who panel.
Okay.
And they were talking about The Lonely Assassins, which is the mobile device game.
Oh, interesting.
Featuring the Weeping Angels.
Uh-oh. Don't blink.
Yes. And we saw the Edge of Reality console game coming out, which is going to feature Jodie Whittaker and David Tennant.
Sold.
Yep.
Sold.
On all platforms, coming out 2021. Phenomenal job by BBC Studios. Everything they did Doctor Who this weekend was a win. Absolute win. Going into a little later in the day, because like I said, Sunday was a little more quiet day, but they definitely had some home runs. We had the Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo, so if you're a fan of Scooby-Doo, this was something up your alley because they had Frank Welker doing his 50th year of voicing Fred Jones.
Good for him.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. And 18th doing Scooby-Doo. That was like the
That's
crazy
nuts.
stat. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Greg Griffin, who did her 30th year as Daphne Blake.
Wow.
Matthew Lillard doing... Pat, do you want to take a guess at how long he's been doing Shaggy?
Oh, how long did Casey Kasem do him? Because that's 60s. I'm going to guess at least 20.
18 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was blown away by that stat.
Well, because I know Casey Kasem was the guy who did it for the longest time, and that started in the 60s. And I know and I was trying to think of when he died, and I know he wasn't doing them in the end, so I was trying to ballpark, but hey, I was close.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Kate Micucci, it did Velma for 5 years.
Right.
So definitely it was a little fun panel if you're a fan of Scooby-Doo. I know they had a Flintstone one. I didn't check that one out, though. But it was, like you said, it was geared more towards the families today, so they definitely delivered on that. But also a couple big ones that I had on my list was Valiant Heads to Hollywood. And it was a roundtable of what's going on with Valiant Comics. I always preach, don't sleep on Valiant. They put out a ton of great work. And this panel was no doubt in this. They teased about The Harbinger, which is going to be the next big feature film they have coming out.
Yeah.
We also got some updates about Ninjak, Bloodshot, Exo Man of War, Rai, Shadow Man. The artwork in Shadow Man looked dope as all blazes, too. And we had just a little brief roundtable of creators for Valiant joining in: Jackson Lansing, Colin Kelly, Jeff Parker, Dennis Hopeless, and senior editors Heather Antos and Liza Hawkins were also in. So this was definitely just a fun panel. And like I said, if you don't know a lot about Valiant, now is a perfect time to jump on. They did tease about some new video game news coming out. They didn't show anything. But 2021 is looking like a huge year for Valiant Comics, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, it's good for them.
Yeah, and I'm very interested to see what The Harbinger is going to be. But it was not the big panel of the day for Sunday, though.
Oh.
Time for Animaniacs.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So this panel was living up to the hype. If I read these names off, I know you're going to mark out about it. Rob Paulson.
So good.
Tress McNeil.
Yep.
Jess Harnell.
Yep.
And Maurice LaMarche.
Yep.
All were on there talking about the show, history about it. We did see a preview of the new episodes coming out in November.
Holy shit, it looks so good.
Yes, which they tied it into Jurassic Park.
Because of course they did. Because if you don't know, Steven Spielberg is one of the people who was behind the creation of Animaniacs.
Yes, it was dope as all could be, and it was something you definitely want to go check out. And obviously, we're sold about that November 20th.
Oh my God, I cannot wait.
Yes.
Because I'm very interested. For those of you who may not remember, you can look it up on YouTube. Animaniacs pushed the boundaries, and there were some very over your childhood heads jokes in that show.
Yeah.
That I'm wondering, are they gonna pull the same punches this time around, or is it gonna be kind of held back a little bit? We'll see.
Yeah, it was.
I'm hoping it's still the same.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to. Like, you could definitely tell everybody's super amped up to be there.
Yeah.
They were very excited for it, and obviously if you bring that energy to the show. I mean, they did announce Pinky and the Brain are going to be on there as well.
God, I can't wait. And I hope the jokes are still there, because there's one that comes to mind from the original run where they were in, around the time that Thanksgiving was happening in, colonial America. And this pilgrim says to him, give me the bird. And one of the Warner brothers goes, we'd love to, but the Fox censors won't allow it.
Yeah. It's humor like that wins them over to an older audience as well. So November 20th on Hulu, they're going to have a big premiere day. We'll be probably live tweeting the hell out of that one. I can fully bank you on that. And then also on Sunday, though, Skybound Entertainment's 10th anniversary.
Good for them.
So this is Robert Kirkman's company, and he was kind of teasing a little bit about where they're going. A couple big notes of this, if you're into Skybound. They're doing an expo online, I believe, October 30th. And then he was, between the history, he was answering some fan questions. Now, this was something very cool. I don't think this will work for everybody.
Okay.
Some fan goes, hey, can I get a foil Negan Lives? And Kirkman goes, because you had the balls to ask? Yes. Anybody else? No.
Good for him.
They got an address. They're mailing him the red foil cover.
Good for him.
Yeah. And they're asking, somebody else asked what his dream projects would be.
Okay.
His wish list, Death Race 2000.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming.
Interesting.
He said he really wanted to do that at some point. And Transformers, which would
Sure.
be... Yeah,
sure.
I
see that.
I fully bought that. And then he hinted some more Walking Dead news.
Well, because he can't let that stay dead. Huh.
No. He was praising the show, praising the current run. So,
sure.
And obviously had a lot of nice things to say. But he also, again, threw some gas on a fire that we have been talking about for a while.
So that didn't need it thrown on there.
More Clementine.
Oh, yes, please.
Didn't say what. Didn't say any more details. If it was a new video game, if it was a new comic. But he heavily hinted about Clementine returning in some various form. So a lot of interesting story you had about that.
Yeah.
There was another panel, though, on Sunday that definitely caught my attention, and it was the story behind The Legend of Zadi with Gail Simone and Jim Calafiore. And this was a comic that they're teaming up with travelers to discuss about the dangers of distracted driving. And it's a story about Zadi, who was a three-year-old who was unfortunately killed in an accident of distracted driving.
Yeah.
And they created the legend of Z-Hawk, and Gail Simone and Jim California, along with Zadi's mother, was on the panel, and they had the comic online, so you could check it out. It was a very good read. Like I said, they did a very nice job. I mean, obviously a heartbreaking story and the reason behind it, but it's cool that they're bringing attention to the dangers of distracted driving. So this was just a panel that had a lot of great message behind it as well. I mean, obviously continuing Zadi's legacy on in the book form. It's something worth checking out. The panel was on findthemetaverse.com. It had a booth set up, so you can go check it out. I believe it's still online as well, so you definitely want to go check that. And then closing out my Sunday, I got to talk Stargirl.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking Stargirl on this one. And for what it delivered, we had the cast on, and I have to correct myself because on the live stream I said Supergirl. Because I got so amped up because I was so excited to hear what was coming to Stargirl. Breck Bassinger and company were on. They were giving a little teasers for what's coming next season.
Sure.
We do know Eclipso is coming, and they kind of deep dived about he would be the major bad guy. We did hear more about the Shade coming, who's also going to be dominating the season as well. We did get a little more clues that we were going to see more JSA members popping up. That they didn't go into full detail, so if anybody's thinking we're going to see Alan Scott or Jay Garrick get introduced, temper the expectations for now. But they did say that the infamous pen will be addressed. So I was excited to hear that. I think obviously Stargirl has been one of my favorite shows to come out.
Yeah.
And definitely delivered on all fronts. And then the last show to close out Sunday was Quick Bites of Fright. Sam Raimi and more about Quibi's darker side. And they were showing off some behind-the-scenes details of 50 States of Fright, which looks scary as all hell. A lot of short stories going on with this. The footage looked amazing. So if you're into horror, this is going to be something up your alley. Overall, who do you think won New York Comic Con?
I have to go Amazon Prime. They came in hard, they came in fast, and they dominated early on.
I agree too. I thought Amazon took gold. I will say Hulu took silver.
Okay.
And I will say BBC took bronze.
Good. Oh, okay.
I think it was a split between Marvel and DC. The biggest surprise was Quibi.
Yeah.
Quibi, I thought, did an amazing job with their panels.
Especially since they're trying to sell themselves.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
With everything going on, I thought they had one of the best presentations of all con.
That's
especially,
good.
I wasn't too impressed before with what I've seen from them, but I was sold on all this.
Right.
So for me, I thought that they had a con. And just for everybody behind the scenes at ReedPop, MCM, Metaverse, New York Comic Con, thank you for what you did. Because you set the blueprint for how we should be doing digital cons. This was the best one I've seen all year. You even topped DC Fandom. I'll be straight up about it. This had something for everybody. I know the site is still active, so even if you go to NewYorkComicCon.com, it'll direct you right to findthemetaverse.com. The videos, I believe, are still up on YouTube at youtube.com/NYCC.
They are.
So definitely check them out while you can. There's something for everybody. The merch store is going on as well. You definitely want to remember this event because for everything that's gone in 2020, this has been a phenomenal thing to be a part of. So that being said, we're going to take a quick break, get a little rehydrated. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What was your overall thoughts of NYCC this year? If you want more deeper dives, we can talk about it on social media at ochoduroparlayhour.com or head over to twitch.tv/607podcast and you can catch the live reaction videos and we can keep that discussion rolling. We'll be right back.
Hi everyone, this is Mark, the DM for Stranger Damies. What is Stranger Damies, you ask? Well, we're just a bunch of first-time D&D players exploring the world of Tal'Dorei 30 years after the events of the Coma Conclave, which was made famous on Critical Role. Join us every week as we roll some dice, make some mistakes, but most importantly, we have fun. New episodes air every Wednesday at strangerdamies.podbean.com or on your favorite podcast streaming app. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Stranger Damies. And is it Wednesday yet?
Hey, this is Johnny Moose from Excite Wrestling, and you're listening to the ODPH. I didn't mess it up. I thought I would. Right now, back to the guys.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we are finally getting around to talking about the Walking Dead quote-unquote season finale.
Yes.
A Certain Doom finally came out.
Directed by one Greg Nicotero. You might have heard of him.
Yes, because the last time we were talking live Walking Dead
Was in April.
Yes. So October 4th was the day. Obviously, we were too hyped up for New York Comic Con to talk about it, but we have time today to talk about it. So we are talking spoilers. If you have not seen the episode yet and you want to avoid it, we give you fair warning now, because we're going to deep dive into it in 3, 2, 1. Pad, what did you think?
It was okay. You know, it wasn't the greatest season finale ever. Wasn't the worst. It was okay.
It was all right. Yeah, I agree with you. This was early spoiler about a 6 in my book.
Okay.
I could maybe stretch one thing to 7, but I will break down why. Because where we jump in, obviously, this is the end of the Whisper War.
Yep.
Beta is leading the horde of thousands of walkers to the hospital where everybody's camped up. You have one group that is separated. That's Eugene, Ezekiel, Yumiko, and Princess. You have other members of the survivors separated as well. Beta is on a one mission to destroy everybody, a one-man suicide mission. I mean, that's honestly what it is.
Pretty much.
And once we get diving into it, all the other survivors that are outside are trying to sneak and really try helping everybody with the surrounding horde around them. Daryl and company are trying to get everybody out of there in one piece.
Yep.
And they do the old trick about covering themselves in zombie guts
Yeah.
and sneaking
Seen it
out.
before. It works.
Yeah, it's happened. We did have one minor fatality along the way.
Yeah.
And that was Beatrice. Which, yet again, The Walking Dead was scared to go kill off a major character. I'm sorry, Beatrice was not moving the needle.
No.
And I understand how they did it. She got stabbed in the leg because Whisper decided to try taking her out.
Yeah.
And was expendable. Carol had to leave her behind, a la what Shane did to Otis way back when.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, everybody forgot about that, but it's like, this has happened before. Is it saying Carol is snapped like she has? No.
It's still cold-blooded, though.
It's cold-blooded, but let's face it. We go through these waves with Melissa McBride's portrayal as Carol, and it's nothing against her. It's just how the character is written.
True.
Carol goes through these ways where she's an ice-cold psycho to like an emotional, fragile human being that breaks down every 30 seconds. It's just how the character is written. Is it a bad thing? No, but is it something that comes in like what Carol is going to stand up? Please inform us.
Yeah.
Because we know that Norman Reedus' Daryl Dixon has been leading the group since Rick Grimes has left, with the Civil Republic, as they're now being known as.
Yep.
And we know they're stuck with Jeffrey Dean Morgan's Negan, and we're seeing just the ramification of the group that's standing out. I mean, Cassidy McClincy's Lydia's also become a major player in the group, too, which that was something out of nowhere. So they're the ones leading the drive out of the hospital, where you see Gabriel, of all people, is leading the protection group.
Which was weird.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was just a weird scenario that with the fighters from the kingdom that are now with the group were landing arrow shots to give them a chance to escape. Meanwhile, they were stuck in the hospital. And we see that the horde is working their way up. But lo and behold, who comes in saving the day but Maggie with somebody that, is fully head to toe with knives and swordsman skill. And we don't know who this person is.
Nope.
I'm not saying it's Michonne. No. I'm going to say that right now. But is definitely using sharp knives like Michonne. And they wind up rescuing everybody out of there because Carol's letters finally got in Maggie's possession. So she now knows what's been going on.
Finally.
Yeah, finally, which is like, thank you for joining the crowd. Meanwhile, you have Daryl and company escaping because they're now leading everybody away with the horde because they're playing Burning Down the House by Talking Heads.
Which was good.
Yeah, which was good. I mean,
that was good.
It was good, and obviously it made the right sense because you want to get everybody away with the whispers. What was the end game going to be? Who knows? Because like it's just kind of a really quick way to get everybody out of there because the whispers eventually overtake the sound system, and now we have the final standoff. So in one corner we have Negan, Daryl, Lydia, and the other corner you have Beta with whispers and zombies.
Yeah.
Which we have Beta thinking he's finally won, even though he's now getting his final match with Negan. He gets the one-upsmanship because, remember, Negan did kill Alpha.
That's true.
So Beta is trying to, obviously listen to the voices in his head like Randy Orton and trying to give him a punt to the head and just take everybody out. But during this battle, Daryl comes in to make the save, which how strange is this world now that Daryl is defending Negan?
Which, and I know I saw some reactions online for some people who hadn't those people who hadn't watched Walking Dead since Glenn got killed off. They were confused as all hell.
Yeah,
what show is this that Daryl's now working with Negan? I'm like, oh, there's somebody who hasn't watched in a while.
Yeah, this is the friend of the enemy of my friend is my friend. Like, it's a weird.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just such a weird thing. I can't even say it because watching those two work together is just like, oh, there's something so wrong about this.
So wrong, but it's awesome.
It's awesome too. And then you see Daryl do the Wolverine Sabretooth moment of the night where he stabs Beta in both eyes.
That was nuts.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming.
And then Beta just, like...
Doesn't he try to pull him out and keep going?
Yeah. Which, I mean, kudos to him.
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, Ryan Hurst has done a phenomenal job as Beta.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Bar none. Like, you can't take anything away from him. And his portrayal has really carried this season. So I'm sad to see him get killed off, but we all knew this was happening.
Yeah.
And how he goes out, he just kind of sacrifices himself, takes off the mask, and lets himself get eaten. And I do like Jeffrey Dean Morgan's comment as Negan. He goes, yo, do you know who that is? And Daryl's like, nobody.
that was good.
Yeah, it was just cold-blooded and as all could be. So like I say, that part was okay. It wasn't the big fight I was expecting because we've seen Daryl and Beta throw down before. I mean, Beta survived falling down an elevator shaft, for God's sake.
True.
So the fact he walks out of this in one piece is a little far-fetched in my book.
Yeah.
But Beta's consumed by the walkers, and then you have Carol leading the Horde over a cliff to kind of give everybody away, which I have to say, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The fact that you announced there's a spin-off show with Daryl and Carol, this killed any suspense for me.
Yeah.
So this entire moment, if you had Lydia do this,
sure.
Okay, I would have been like, okay, wow, she's
or
going to
even
sacrifice
Gabriel.
Yeah, if you had Gabriel, if you had somebody do this, other than Daryl and Carol, I would have been like, okay. Like, I thought Ezekiel should have done it.
Right.
I think that would have made more sense. But obviously, he's not with the group. Obviously, you know, he's with the Eugene and company.
Yep.
But you need to have somebody else to do this, and you didn't. So obviously, the whole suspenseful moment of the Horde going over the cliff, it was null and void. It was like Lydia saves her, and now there's like that weird kinship going on there where, you know, what should be the new mother to Lydia, mother figure to her. Who knows? Meanwhile, going on at the same time, you do see Eugene's group is trying to make it back. They get captured by armored soldiers. And this is a very, very notable thing in the comic. This is a brand new world. They're setting up the Commonwealth.
Yep.
We do know what's happening here. So we'll have to wait and see what transpires. And during this whole mix, too, Connie is lost, and she's found near Oceanside. So what is that going to pray tell into next season? I don't know.
Hard to say.
But then you also have the happy moment ending where Maggie's reuniting with everybody. Oh, by the way, have you seen Negan's hanging around there?
Yeah.
Because that'll have to be addressed first episode they come back.
Yep.
So, like I say, overall, it was a good episode.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. It wasn't the big, traumatic season finale that we've had in years past. I feel that The Walking Dead has played it too safe, and I think they did it yet again. I think the fact that you telegraphed any move with Carol or Daryl being involved has really hurt your show, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that had you had anybody else but those two lead the walkers over the cliff, I think it would have added more drama. I think it would have made more sense.
Yeah, totally.
I think the fact that you had Daryl walk out of there unscathed, I think you had Carol walk out of there unscathed, even though we saw her go Shane for a hot second.
Yeah.
I think didn't really do anything to move the needle.
I mean, it's kind of like a Lord of the Rings Legolas complex they had, where, you know, if you watch the Lord of the Rings films, by and large in those films, most of the main characters will get banged up, they'll get bloodied, they'll get dirty, they'll get grimy. But then there's Legolas who comes out spotless and clean as ever.
Yeah, and I think that really hurt this episode. That for being the end of the Whisper War, you had no casualties.
Yeah, no, it was kind of a letdown, all things considered. I was expecting more, and I was expecting, not a huge body count, but I was expecting some people to die because you can't have an end to a quote-unquote war without losing people.
Yeah.
Unless we're talking Cold War.
Yeah.
But still, I was expecting some body count, and I didn't really get that.
Yeah, when you had Gabriel and company trapped in the hospital and they get saved by Maggie, nobody got killed there.
Yeah.
You had Beatrice get killed, but then again, who is Beatrice? What is Beatrice? You don't have any major characters that got killed off. So why is the emotional toll taken of what this gravity is? The only thing that you had go right was Beta getting killed in a final fight with Daryl. Mm-hmm. And like I said, he went Wolverine on him to his Sabretooth. That was a great moment. That was the only redeeming moment of this show, like for this episode. Rather. And like I said, I struggle with that because we have the capability of going a lot more places. You have one more season left. Why are we playing it safe?
Yep.
Like, it's just a waste to even say this was Whisper of War or Certain Doom. For who? I didn't see it. I'm sorry. I have to give this a grade of 6 out of 10. I'm sorry. It's just the same old stuff week in and week out now.
Yeah.
And I want to see more. The show has been able to do more. Why are we scared to go there? You've already announced the final season's happening. And I'm sure that plan was in place by the time you were filming this episode. Why are we being safe? Why? Why, Pat? Why?
I don't know.
I need answers. So, final thoughts on this episode.
Okay, episode. Nothing to really write home about. I'm hoping they do more with the bonus episodes that are coming sometime next year.
Yeah, I agree, too. Whenever they drop and they said spring 2021, give me something more than what I've seen. Because if it's wash, rinse, repeat, The Walking Dead should stay dead. I'm sorry. Like, I'm at that stage with it that I was really excited to see what they were going to do. I was hoping, okay, big finale, big Whisper War. Are we going to get something? No. We have one minor character get killed off, and I'm supposed to say, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You didn't connect.
No.
The fact that you played it way too safe with Daryl and Carol and Negan, you really lost me on it. And I'm sorry, Maggie's return, great, but now she's running around with a masked group that is going and is basically like a kill squad. Like, what is this? Who is this? What? Like, just too many questions that I'm sorry, at this stage in the game, I'm just not emotionally attached to. Like you said, you had some good moments. The Talking Head music, great moment.
Yeah.
Perfect moment. And also, Daryl killing Beta, perfect. Albeit, though, way too short of a battle.
Yeah.
You know, for what the build-up is.
Pretty much.
And for Beta, like I said, Beta was the saving grace of this episode, even though he wasn't in it that long. Ryan Hurst has been your MVP this season, and I'm sad to see him go. But when our favorite zombie survivors come back in 2021, I'm hoping for a better show and a more focused direction to finish it out strong. Hit us up on that hashtag, though. Hashtag ODPH. What is your thoughts about the season finale of The Walking Dead? Did you love it? Did you hate it? And why? Let's talk. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Coming back for the final segment of this edition of the ODPH podcast, and time to talk one-shots, Pad.
Yeah, so got a couple things to talk about. First off was one that's long been rumored, long been discussed, but it finally got confirmed, and that is the Mad Max spinoff Furiosa is in the works at Warner's with George Miller directing and Anya Taylor-Joy in the title role. And then also you have Chris Hemsworth is along for the ride. So this coming courtesy of the folks over at Deadline, which reads, quote, George Miller told Deadline about Furiosa having a deep backstory in the Mad Max universe, and now we'll finally get to see it. Warner Brothers is in advanced development with Furiosa, a spin-off feature of Miller's multi-Oscar winning blockbuster Mad Max Fury Road, about the renegade character played in that film by Oscar winner Charlize Theron, who was a notable force in Max's survival in the desert. The standalone movie will reveal the origins of Furiosa and be played by Glass actress Anya Taylor-Joy in the title role. The movie will track the genesis of Furiosa before she teamed up with Max Rockenstanky, apologies if I butchered that name, in Fury Road. Chris Hemsworth and Yahya Abdul Mateen II will also star in a movie that Miller will also direct, co-write, and produce with his longtime Oscar-nominated producing partner, Doug Mitchell. Miller's own Australian-based Kennedy Miller Mitchell banner will produce. So for those of you who like Mad Max, and I know there's a few of you, you got something coming.
Mad Max is actually batshit crazy.
I've seen it.
I'm sorry, that's how it is.
I've seen it once, but I really can't have a judge. I know people have raved about it to me. I'm kind of neutral on the thing because the one time I've seen the movie was when in a room with 25 people talking at the same time, so I couldn't hear or understand a goddamn thing that was going on.
I have seen it at a midnight showing, and I walked out of there and had no idea what I saw for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like, literally, that's the movie to me.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's visually intense as all blazes.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt with that.
Sure.
But the fact they're doing a prequel, let me see some footage first, and we'll talk.
Moving on, comic you should check out this week from my recommendations is the Star Wars Darth Vader issue 6, where it's the start of this new story where Palpatine is all sorts of pissed off at him, and he wants to put the fear back in Vader because he doesn't think he's using fear enough. I've read some spoilers. There is a Rise of Skywalker connection to the comic. I know that was teased at one point that it's going to connect to Rise of Skywalker in some way. Did not see this coming. It's not a huge, major, massive one. Rey doesn't show up. Finn doesn't show up in the issue. No, it's just something that was in Rise of Skywalker, makes an appearance in this comic. So definitely be sure to check that out at your local comic shops. I know I will. Also, we got a new trailer for the upcoming volume of RWBY. That is volume 8, which is coming out on November 7th. So it's a great early birthday present for me. I know I cannot wait, especially after last season where things left off, where, up against the wall, the enemy really moving in on the heroes. Where they're going to go, I don't know, but I am all sorts of locked in for that.
Yeah, no, trailer looked dope.
Moving on to some streaming news. I know this one made some waves. Disney is reorganizing its business with a focus on streaming. So according to the article I'm reading from IGN, the Walt Disney Company has unveiled a new corporate structure that places a higher priority on streaming in light of the rapid success of Disney+. The company announced the reorganization of its media and entertainment businesses on Monday in a post that highlighted Disney's desire to further accelerate its direct-to-consumer strategy. Under the new structure, Disney's content creation groups will focus on producing and delivering content for theatrical, linear, and streaming, with the primary focus being the company's streaming services. Quote, "We are strategically positioning our company to be more effectively support our growth strategy and increase shareholder value," Bob Chapek, Disney's CEO, said in a statement. "Managing content creation distinct from distribution will allow us to be more effective and nimble in making the content consumers want most, delivered in the way they prefer to consume it," close quote. So a little bit of a surprise. I know some people had a lot of reaction about this. To me, it just makes sense given the current state of the world and the state of the last 10 months of the year, where the last movie I saw in theaters was Birds of Prey. And because of the situation with the pandemic and theaters being closed here in New York State, I haven't seen a movie in theaters since. So and that obviously, if you read the articles and pay attention to kind of the movie industry news, that's hurt not just Disney, but it's hurt every movie studio. They've lost out on a lot of money. Disney Plus is a great way to stream the back content. I know they tried the Premier Access Plus with Mulan, and it kind of wasn't so successful. So in turn, kind of a related story, the upcoming Disney Pixar film Soul is going to premiere on Disney Plus, skipping theaters, and it's going to be out on, it was originally supposed to come out in November. However, now it's coming straight to Disney Plus. No added purchase needed, just going to drop for everybody if you got Disney Plus.
That's crazy.
It's going to drop on Christmas Day. So I think them reorganizing things kind of makes sense given the state of the world and the pandemic, that should this happen again, and God, let's hope it doesn't, it sets them up for a way that they're not so, hands and feet tied behind their back. There's no way for them to get these movies out, and it's just a way for them to get stuff out to us, the consumers.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's just kind of crazy to think that this is going to be the new setup.
Sure.
But obviously...
Stuff's still going to be coming out in theaters, the big movies and the big stuff, but just you might have some stuff that, if it's not a guaranteed hit at the box office, that they're like, yeah, this might not do so well. Let's just put it out straight to Disney Plus.
And it's a smart move to get people on your subscription service, too.
Yeah.
So if you can entice them, just the whole thing about paying the $30 for Mulan, I mean...
Yeah, no, that was the thing. Yeah, no.
Like, if it was Black Widow, I would, because the difference being is Mulan is a remake. Yeah, you've seen the animated version.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to really sell that point, like, I have no problem paying the $30 if it's the equivalent of me going to the movies. Like, that's the thing. Like, would I normally do it? No. But if I can't go to the movie theaters right now because of the current state of the world, and there's a movie I really want to see, and the next one up is, unless something crazy happens scheduling-wise, because, hey, it is what it is, is Black Widow.
Right.
So if I have to pay $30, that's like me going with somebody else to the movies.
Sure.
And I'm paying for that. I'm paying for X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
So it adds up. I get it.
Yeah.
So I'm not, like, offended by it. It just depends on what the movie is. Like, Mulan, I could care less about.
Yeah. Moving on to some other movie news. Got a trailer that released today that I knew was in the works for a while, but I didn't realize it was this goddamn close.
They didn't show this trailer at New York Comic Con too.
Sure. Is the movie trailer for the upcoming film Monster Hunter, based off of the very popular video game.
Yep.
This directed by a gentleman named Paul Anderson,
Yep.
Who you might know. He wrote the script for Resident Evil aPODalypse, which came out in 2004. He also directed Event Horizon in 1997. Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, like we were talking about, he had a great panel in NYCC.
In 1995, he's directing, and the description of this, I'm reading off of IMDb, says, when Lieutenant Artemis and her loyal soldiers are transported to a new world, they engage in a desperate battle for survival against enormous enemies with incredible powers. In a feature film based on the video game by Capcom. So, yeah, Paul Anderson is directing this. It's starring
Mila
Jovovich, who you might know from, she was Lilu in The Fifth Element. She was Alice in Resident Evil Afterlife and Resident Evil Extinction. And she was also Abby Taylor in the 2009 film The Fourth Kind. It's also starring a gentleman by the name of Tony Jaa, and a little known rapper T.I. Is also in the film. Like I said before, I don't know much about the video game franchise. I haven't played them, but this trailer looks absolutely batshit crazy.
Yeah, they didn't tease the trailer at New York Comic Con, so they did show like a couple glimpses of the film. Like,
sure.
So we didn't really get a full taste of it.
Sure.
And I know where like Pat wants to really explain is like, this is going to be a very big hit, I think. I mean, if you like Pacific Rim,
right?
It's kind of
it's got that vibe to it.
It has that vibe to
Yeah.
it. A little bit different, obviously,
Yes.
because of reasons. But,
Yes.
But it's something that if you're a fan of that kind of genre, it's going to be right up your alley.
Also, if you watch the trailer, they train a mounted 50 cal machine gun that's on an army Jeep looking thing. That ain't enough.
No.
That's all I'm saying.
Definitely
Ain't
not.
enough. Moving on to some other news and some very surprising news that came out today. To read a quote from the folks in charge: "Surprise, motherfucker! Dexter's coming back to Showtime as a limited series." A reading from the IGN article, it says, America's favorite meticulous serial doctor, Dexter Morgan, is making his return in 2021 with a limited series on Showtime. Michael C. Hall returns to reprise his famous, or perhaps infamous, role. Hall joins original series showrunner Clyde Phillips, who wrote and produced during all 8 seasons that premiered on Showtime in 2006. Nothing has been mentioned about the plot, but Showtime has speculated on what a potential Dexter reboot would look like during an interview in 2014. At the time, Showtime's president David Nevins said, quote, "If I were to do something, I would want to do Dexter in a new concept and configuration. I want it to feel different, not just a continuation of the old show," close quote. So as a lot of people know, and I'm sure Ken's going to mention in a minute because he's got some thoughts on this, Dexter's final season left a sour taste in fans' mouth with its poorly received final episode, and many have clamored for a revival since then. Fans even went so far as circulating a fake poster for season 9 that featured Hall and his killer co-star Yvonne Strahovski that was quickly debunked by Showtime.
Okay.
The thoughts, views, and opinions upcoming are that of Ken M. and do not reflect that of the ODPH or myself. Listener discretion is advised.
This had better be fucking good, because I will tell you this, if this sucks like they did the series finale, I'm going to go on a fucking tirade. I know I'm dropping F-bombs like water right now, but let me break this down to you, Pat. I know you've never seen the series.
Nope.
In its original run, okay, we've had 8 seasons. 4 phenomenal. 4 they could have stopped with, because without going spoiler, you had John Lithgow.
It's been long enough. Go spoilers.
All right, fine. I'll go spoilers. Well, listener audience, I will give you fair warning, ODPH Society. I will be talking some spoilers. So I will try keeping it spoiler-free, but you know what? I'm just that amped up. Okay, so the story is Dexter is works at a crime lab and does the autopsies for the Miami police. And he's also a serial killer because he has like a weird like psychological thing with him. The first run of the show, the first 4 seasons, were amazing and definitely went a lot of different directions because he's a serial killer who kills serial killers. It's like he has a weird code. It's morally complex. It's kind of this really wild story. And then it hits its apex at season 4 with the Trinity Killer played by John Lithgow. And it is literally a masterpiece of a season. It's dark, it's disturbing, it's everything you need. And I believe at this point, this is when they changed showrunners, and this is when everything started taking a turn for the worse. Because now all of a sudden you go in waves of quality on the show. And where we get to the final season is nothing but fucking hot garbage. And how do they end this show? They're all setting up for where Dexter is finally exposed for the murders he's done. And the police are chasing him. He has now a wife and son that are now on the run because his original wife was killed off. So now he's dating this also serial killer and is trying to escape Miami with the son. And instead of joining them, he decides to drive a boat into a fucking hurricane. Yeah.
Good Lord.
It's what the fuck is going on here? And then allegedly that was supposed to kill him off because, you know what, at this point, the villain of that year, I honestly don't forget because he's that forgettable.
Yeah.
And I believe Dexter kills him in prison. Like it's a weird fucking scenario. I'm really dropping the F-bomb. You really got me amped up about this shit. So, this all being said, you had the worst series finale in the history of fucking television.
I can't look up specific episode scores because it doesn't have it for some reason. But season 8 for Dexter in terms of for Rotten Tomatoes on the critic meter, out of 45 critic ratings, it has a score of 33%. And then on the audience score, out of 1,020 user ratings, it has a score of 51%.
Yeah, it should be lower because it was fucking hot garbage. I'm sorry, for where it was. And at one point, it was the best show on cable.
Sure.
At one point. Downhill ever since episode 4. The minute they switched showrunners, in my opinion, the dip in quality was there. And I can't remember, it was Colin Hanks was the one villain the one year. I know they had Julia Stiles on at one point. The series kind of blends because the quality doesn't stand out at this stage. And then where they go in the final season, it's like, oh my God, this is just bad.
I'll say that just to read one quick blurb of a review for the season from Matt Fowler, who we know and follow on Twitter. Quote, while it didn't, let's say, add up to nothing like season 6 did, it gave fans a ton of stuff that no one wanted, including plot points and revelations that weren't just unsatisfying, but intolerable.
Exactly. It made no fucking sense. The whole thing made no fucking sense. I think I've dropped 12 F-bombs in this segment alone. I'm going to keep going because it makes no sense. And if you're going to come back, you had better find your A game from whatever dumpster you put it in, because your past 4 seasons were subpar. Your last one was a complete mail-in job, in my opinion. There was nothing redeeming about it. The portrayals was just all over the place. And then how you drive into a freaking hurricane, and then you wind up in Portland as a lumberjack, starting over because suddenly you've lost your urge to kill or whatever the deal was. I'm sorry, you need to bring something to the table. I am not excited about this. It's because here's the thing. Either one, you're going to improve this, and I'm going to say, why didn't you just do it then? Or 2, it's going to be worse than the series finale.
Hey.
And then I'm going to absolutely lose my mind about it that I spent time watching it. So the pressure is all on them. And I'm sorry, did we not learn from the mistake we did the first time? Why do we need to come back? Why do we need to revisit?
We don't.
Let it go. Just own the L and move on. Come on. Yeah, and I'll be the one watching. I will give my critique about this. Oh, yeah, this is the only reason I'm going to keep Showtime right now.
Oh.
I'm just going to put it out there.
All right. Well, let's make you happy. Let's move on to some happier things. It was announced. You feel better?
Yeah, I will when we get to the next segment. The next story.
So, last week after we recorded, some very interesting news came out that Benedict Cumberbatch is joining Spider-Man 3 as Doctor Strange. This according to an exclusive from The Hollywood Reporter. So it reads, quote, "The good and strange doctor has been caught up in the spider's web. Benedict Cumberbatch is putting on the cloak of levitation and will reprise Marvel's supernatural hero Doctor Strange for the latest Spider-Man movie installment, starring Tom Holland and being made by Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures. The movie puts Cumberbatch in the mentor role that was previously occupied by Robert Downey Jr., who of course played Tony Stark / Iron Man in Spider-Man Homecoming, and Samuel L. Jackson in Spider-Man Far From Home, the latter reprising Nick Fury. The role gives Holland a chance to play opposite seasoned actors, gives Peter Parker a father figure, and gives the movies extra star power while tying them to the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe." So this, of course, is coming off the news that 2 weeks ago, that it is getting some unexpected ties, that it's bringing back Jamie Foxx as Electro, who, of course, played that character in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which came out back in 2014. No word yet. It's gone back and forth whether he's going to be portraying the Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 or if he's playing a new Electro. But I'm thinking the more signs are pointing to a Spider-Verse movie.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely going to be Spider-Verse.
Because if you're getting Benedict Cumberbatch involved, shit's going to get crazy.
Yeah, you're going to have somebody involved. You're going to have Andrew Garfield. You're going to have Tobey Maguire.
Which rumors are running rampant that they're signed on.
Well, at this stage...
Like, I'm looking at Twitter, and it's trending on Twitter right now.
Yeah, like, at this stage, it's a done deal. So, you're going to do Into the Spider-Verse as the third Spider-Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you this. You're going to introduce Miles Morales. You're going to have that character now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether it's the one that's in the current timeline, or, hey, why don't you just bring him over from another planet and just call it the Ultimates verse?
Sure.
Bam. You're going to have him in there, which I'm super excited to see. I'm sorry, I'm still angry about Dexter. You're still going to have Miles involved. And I think that's a great way to spin him in. You don't need to do too much of an origin story. You can kind of do it like how they did the Spider-Man series.
Yeah.
You remember when they did that?
Yeah.
You can kind of explain it like that.
Yeah.
So there is a way to do this. I'm actually excited about this. I've heard Jamie Foxx is not going to be Blue.
Oh, okay.
That's the last I heard about this, that I think it's going to be him in the actual 616 universe. That's what I'm just going to call the MCU.
Sure.
So that being said, I'm all on board with this. I think it's a smart way to do, especially... Like, how they're doing this, the only thing I fear, though, is, like, are they copying what The Flash is doing, and is this a response to it?
Yeah, maybe.
Like, it just kind of seems...
I mean, people wanted to see that for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Into the Spider-Verse is one of the best movies you're ever going to see of comics.
Sure.
So, yeah, why not borrow from that a little bit?
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you what, I'd be excited to see Ghost Spider in there, too.
Yeah,
I know there hasn't been any casting.
Yeah.
Maybe Emma Stone will come back for that. Who knows?
Maybe. Also in related news, it looks like we won't have to wait long to figure it out because eagle-eyed people who live in Queens discovered a sign that was put up on a light pole, which reads, quote, "No parking. Film shoot. Parking can be held a maximum of 24 hours in advance of the date and time indicated below. As spaces become available, vehicles must be moved by shoot day and time, Thursday, October 15th, 2020. Shoot time, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Project name, Serenity Now. And then there's a phone number listed, and it does have the New York Police Department logo and the Made in New York logo on it. So that's taking place in Queens, which just happens to be where Spider-Man is from. And there's been rumors that it's going to start filming soon. So it looks like we're going to find out sooner rather than later what's going on.
Bring it on. Super excited to see
Yeah.
this. So let's take it to the DC universe, though, for a quick second.
Okay.
During Comic-Con weekend, it was also announced that HBO Max has now greenlit the Green Lantern show. No pun intended.
Didn't we already know they were making that?
We already knew, but now we got some details. But now it's like officially official. It's kind of like when you're in a relationship and then you make it Facebook official.
Gotcha.
Same kind of deal.
Gotcha.
So HBO Max has announced they have a series order out, and they have announced the Lanterns involved. So Guy Gardner, Jessica Cruz, Simon Baz, and Alan Scott. You are also going to have Sinestro involved, and you're going to have Kilowog. So the way I am interpreting this, this is the Green Lantern Corps show. This is not a Green Lantern show per se. But you're going to have stories of different Green Lanterns throughout the history of the DC universe that they are in. Like whatever you want to define it as. There is no Hal Jordan announced. There is no Kyle Rayner. There is no John Stewart. I fully believe that those characters are going to get introduced, or they're holding off right now to put them in a feature film and make that the Green Lantern Corps.
Could be.
So for everybody that's freaking out about it, be excited about this. I'm actually thinking this is going to be very cool. I heard they have a very big budget to work with, so we will get a full outer space show. So bring it on. I'm very amped up for this. Obviously, it's going to be kind of a different tone. No casting has been announced yet, so we'll have to kind of wait and see what they do. And definitely something to be looking forward to on HBO Max. I know that the DC Universe shows are all set to be transferred over November 1st, if I read correctly.
Ooh.
So Titans, Harley Quinn, and DC Young Justice
Okay.
are going to be going over. No word yet about Swamp Thing, if it's not already there.
I don't think so.
I haven't, but we have to also plug that Swamp Thing is currently running on the CW, so if you are a fan of that show and want to try getting a revival going for that, tune in for it. Just going to put that out there in the universe. But yeah, HBO Max is making some moves. Definitely excited to see that. Comic-wise, I will get into before a couple picks for the week. It's a very strong week for comics, too. Like I said, before I go into the final portion of the show, definitely want to give a couple quick shout-outs to Valiant has Bloodshot number 9 coming out. That's looking really strong. Marvel-wise, Amazing Spider-Man 50 is coming out of the current storyline. You also have some Exo Swords spin-off books coming as well. So like I said, we already talked about that last segment. It's a big week, big story. So if you want to jump in, there's a lot of moving parts with it. Grab one and definitely stay on board. DC, though, has a big week. Big week. Dark Knight's Death Metal 4. You also have Rorschach number 1.
Oh.
Yes. So those 2 books alone should be enough to sell you on what's going on. It also looks like they have the Doomsday Clock Collector's Edition in as well.
Cool.
So that'll be something worth. It's the complete collection, so it's all 12 issues put into one. So a lot of stuff going, but like I say, you have Death Metal 4 coming out, and obviously the mock-up of the Watchmen universe on the cover, and then Rorschach number 1, which is early spoilers saying that it's tying into the TV show more than the universe. Now, I don't know if that's done on purpose. It is Tom King. You know I'm a fan. I'm going to check it out. Let's kind of wait and see about that. So a lot of news going on there, trying to, capture in on the TV market. And to close this segment out, I have to recap The Boys. We did talk about this a little bit from the New York Comic Con panel. The series, all episodes of episode 2, or season 2 rather, are on Amazon right now. It is well worth your watch. I have to plug the show phenomenally. This has been one of the best seasons of comic TV that you'll find. Anthony Starr, who plays Homelander, the version of Superman, but is really not as noble as Clark Kent, phenomenally stole this season. Carl Urban, who plays Billy Butcher, is the brash leader of the boys who goes through an emotional journey this year looking for answers for his wife's disappearance, and where he ended up this year from the end of season 1 was truly an emotional roller coaster for him, so he definitely put on a stellar performance. Jack Quaid as Huey Campbell definitely grew in his role, and obviously balancing off with Erin Moriarty as Starlight, the one good member, shall we say, of the 7. They definitely had some scene-stealing moments of the year. I definitely have to say, though, the silver medal goes to Tomar Capon as Frenchie, who definitely had one of the strongest episodes dealing with his background, especially dealing with Lamplighter, who was one Shawn Ashmore.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, so kind of low play, who wasn't in the series that long, and obviously his character Lamplighter has a lot of baggage with him, and how his story arc ended was very, very unique. But the one that generated the most buzz out of everybody was that of Stormfront. And Stormfront is definitely not the nicest person in the world. It is a play off one Shazam to be a degree.
Okay.
Albeit, though, tying into the dark side of World War II. And all the evilness that comes with it. Aya Cash, who plays Stormfront, definitely did an amazing job with this. But the bigoted views of the character shine through, and obviously was a complete challenge for Cash to do, and she pulled it off phenomenally. Obviously, if you read the comic, Stormfront is a male. In the show, was a female. And like I say, to do the complete 180 of the character, she pulled off amazingly. And in fact, like I'm actually reading on Wikipedia about that she received hate mail for her portrayal of the Nazi character.
Jeez.
Like, she played that character so well, and Cash, who is actually Jewish, was just responding to it as like, I just about how she took this character and just made people hate this character. And it was absolutely wild. Just her performance, like I said, was incredible. And I don't want to give away what happened at the end of the season, but it's almost like it's too happy of an ending.
Sure.
And for the boys universe, it shouldn't be, but the final episode, What I Know, delivers you on such an emotional roller coaster, especially when you deal with Carl Urban's Butcher, you deal with Aya Cash's Stormfront, and the ramifications of her character this year. And like I said, I cannot say what an amazing job Aya Cash did. She took this character and really oozed out the evil in it, and definitely made you hate that character. And it was such a phenomenal performance. She deserves an Emmy nomination, in my opinion, too. But Anthony Starr as Homelander and dealing with the egotistical complexity of his character deserves all the awards. Was fucking phenomenal. This show has been such a well-received hit that it's actually been dominating over some Netflix shows. I believe we actually talked about it.
We did.
Yeah, it was it's the most viewed streaming show of the year.
Yep.
And rightfully so. That if you like your superheroes with a bit of absolute craziness, with a realistic approach with super over-the-top moments, this show is for you. The performances are phenomenal. And I cannot stress this enough. For any bad reviews that you're giving this show, you need to stop. Because just the fact that it didn't come out weekly is enough for
it didn't come out all at once.
Yeah, or it didn't come out all at once, rather. It's a joke. And if you're going to really sit there and tear it down, it's absolutely sickening. This show delivered on every single front. It gave you the closest portrayal to the comic, which the comic is much darker and more disturbing. And, Pad, let me just put it that way. You think this is bad? This is not bad compared to the comic. Mm-hmm. The comic is even more fucked up. But the portrayals that have been done by this acting and the writing with Kripke Enterprises is fantastic. Carl Urban just oozes charisma in this role. And his playoff Anthony Starr's Homelander is absolutely epic. And to see where Homelander goes with Stormfront, like I said, that's your trifecta this year. That they have absolutely scene-stealing moments. Cash acted the hell out of this role. And her portrayal, I honestly hated Stormfront, but I applaud her for making me hate her.
Sure.
Because there's a lot to hate about Stormfront, because Stormfront's an awful human being. But how Cash brought it to the screen, you just obviously want to hate this character. And, I mean, that's the best part of playing a villain, when you can get that kind of reaction out of somebody. Homelander does the same thing, too. He's such an egotistical asshole. But I love Anthony Starr in this role. I love Aya Cash in this role. I love Carl Urban. And like I said, the sleeper of this year was Tomer Capone. He was absolutely incredible in the series. And like I say, you definitely have to check out, I want to say it's episode 6 when you dive into his back history. It's just fantastic. It's something you definitely need to check out. I cannot stress it enough. Amazon Prime, get binge watching. And we did get a little teaser today on Twitter from Eric Kripke that season 3 is already in the works. The script is done, and it's titled Payback. If you've read the comic, you know what to expect with that. I can't wait. I'm actually going to start binge watching. In fact, our friends over at 3FN are going to actually be doing a live reaction binge watch because Diesel has never seen this. Do you believe this, Pat?
Yeah.
Diesel, this is a show catered to him. So it's going to be up his alley. It's going to be something worthwhile checking out on twitch.tv/67podcast. But don't wait till then. Don't take my word for it. Start binge watching now. There's so many other moments. I don't even want to go into spoiler territory because I don't want to ruin it for everybody. Jump on the show. Hit me up on that hashtag ODPH and let me know what you think. That all being said, the music you heard on this episode's beginning was that of Shout at the Robots. But we're closing with some Tom Jolu. Tom was a featured guest this week on the ODPH. His episode will be dropping. You need to go check it out. He is a brilliant musician. He is an amazing human being, and he puts out some great music. So we're going to close out some Tom Jolu. You want to find out about him, Shout, and all the other great bands you hear, along with organizational links to Black Lives Matter, voter registration links, amazing pod groups that we're in via their Podchaser pages, hashtag 67podcast with 3FN and 8122productions.com and their Patreon. And so much more. Head on over to ochoduroparlayhour.com and keep the conversation going. That's all I got for this week. So for the one and only Padawan J.
140 days in, still no HBO Max app on Amazon Fire Stick or Roku.
I'm your host, Ken M. Go watch The Boys. Thank me later. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.
Just wait, you whisper, tears and down her face. I love you, God, I hate you, but these things we can't replace. Just stay, she screamed that you're packing up to leave. I need you, I can't stand you, but better than my dreams. Just wait. Just wait, I can't take it. I'm not one to pacify with words or with swords, and I refuse to wait on measure the damage or the cause. So close your eyes and count 10. Pray that when you open them, I'll be there in the end. Just wait, that you whispered, tears are down her face. I love you, God, I hate you, but these things we can't replace. Just stay out, screams as you're packing up to leave. I need you, I can't stand you, but better than my dreams. Just Just wait, that you whispered, the tears run down her face. I love you, God, I hate you, but these things we can't replace. Just stay, now she screams as you're backing up to leave. I need you, I can't stand you, but it's better than my dreams. Just wait. Just wait, I just wait. Just wait, Thank you.